What happens when the lonely high school nerd discovers the biggest secret of the strange new kid at school? We start the story with a terrible and frightening piece of news. In the early hours of February 3rd, 2 fatal animal attack incidents occurred in Chu County in the city of Kibei. The police state that one of the victims, Jiang Moxiang, 65 years old, died in an extraordinarily cruel way, and that his attacker could not be identified, nor was it possible to know which direction it went, having left behind an abnormal trail. Meanwhile, at secondary school number 40 in the city of Kiwon, our protagonist is shocked by this terrifying report. Not to mention that it's not the first time. Lately, so many strange incidents have been happening that people are starting to question whether the animals are coming from the outskirts of the city. But at the moment, her concern is grabbing all the newspapers in the school's maintenance room. Something catches her attention. Noticing a few girls gathered together, strangely interested in knowing whether the new maintenance employee is going to fix the roof, these students are completely in love with him, and he must be at least 1.90 meters tall. However, what really stands out is that one of the girls says the guy is kind of scary, that just looking at him makes you feel an overwhelming urge to run away. Suddenly, one of them realizes they're being watched. So she starts teasing Shuting like always, and notices that the protagonist is taking out the trash again, which leaves Shuting confused. After all, these papers cost 5 wens per kilogram, and the older archived ones are worth even more. So adding everything up, it's a good amount of invested money. This idiot girl really doesn't understand the value of that, which she laments. The girl gets annoyed, asking why the protagonist has that look on her face, acting all high and mighty just because she's holding a bit of trash. Like she does every single day of her life, she starts bullying Shuting, saying she's been acting like a fool ever since she hit her head in elementary school and that she's still keeping up this little fake act. The girl pushes the protagonist, who has even worse luck because the railing of that building is broken and comes loose easily, almost causing a tragedy. But before something worse happens to her, her guardian angel comes down the stairs, holding the blonde girl and stopping her from falling into the abyss. Shuting looks at her savior, wanting to know who this mysterious, tall, dark-haired guy is. The guy doesn't seem very emotional, and just tells her to keep her distance. The troublemaking girls are impressed, recognizing that this is the logistics technician. The dark-haired guy comes down the stairs complaining that they're in his work zone. Intimidated, the other girls run away, but Shuting stays there, curious to find out more about her hero. She gets startled when he asks if she needs something. The protagonist also runs off from there, apologizing, and just like that girl, she also wonders why this person gives her chills. However, even with that scary aura, he was the one who saved her. So Shuting runs back. With a cute bandage, she covers the wound on her hand, and thanks him for the help earlier. Then runs away again because the guy is still scary. The dark-haired guy remains there, standing, looking at her, then looks at the bandage on his hand. Some time passes, and the protagonist and the girl who is always bullying her are forced to clean the courtyard. But of course she doesn't intend to stay there with Shuting, so she's trying to jump over the gate and is still being ironic, telling her to clean well if she doesn't want to get scolded by the teacher. The protagonist tries to get her attention, but the girl misunderstands and makes it clear she can snitch since the security camera has been broken for a while, so there won't be any proof, and even threatens her not to tell anyone about her escape. However, that's not what Shuting cares about. She's just trying to warn her that the gate is open and she doesn't need to jump. Still pretty annoyed, the other girl just makes up an excuse that she just wanted to do it that way, and tells her not to interfere. So it starts getting dark while our protagonist does all the work alone. And meanwhile, she thinks about how she forgot to ask the technician if she could keep the other newspapers, but she plans to do that when she meets him again. Suddenly, she stops when she hears the voice of that hot-headed girl. Curious, Shuting goes to investigate what's happening, worried that something might have happened, and at the same time wondering why that girl is always in a bad mood and never understanding why it's always like that with her. Something makes her stop in the middle of her walk. She finally found her classmate, but next to what was left of her, a huge figure is present. Hidden behind the tree, the girl is careful not to make any noise and not draw the attention of that beast. It's a very large black wolf, something she didn't even know was capable of existing. The monster seems to be checking if there's anyone around, so she tries to hide and stay quiet. Suddenly, the air around the place starts to feel strange and a strange gust surrounds the area. With curious eyes, Shuting looks at the wolf. It's from him that this impressive aura is coming, This creature goes through a transformation, revealing himself to be a human. The man smiles and, having noticed her presence, says, "Looks like we have a little mouse." He begins his new hunt, quickly finding his prey. With a smile, the dark-haired guy says, "Now I will devour you." He reaches out his hand to grab her. And so she wonders if this is going to be her end. In desperation, the girl closes her eyes and asks that if the big bad wolf is so hungry, then he should devour someone else. The girl is curled up like a ball, trembling in fear while the guy hasn't even touched her. It doesn't take long for her to notice that. The guy, even with his intimidating way that would make anyone run, asks what she suggests he should eat. Referring to the girl lying on the other side, he asks if he should devour her and let Zhu go. Immediately, the protagonist refuses that offer and suggests a conversation. At the same time, while he's there, the wolf with his sharp hearing can hear guards at the school noticing the gate open and suggesting that some student might have escaped. He goes silent, leaving her confused, then says that she's very lucky. At that moment, the wolf makes a sign, leaving Zhu intrigued, trying to figure out what it means. He tries to touch her, but the girl pulls away from his touch. However, the guy insists and grabs the back of her neck, bringing her closer and says, "Keep your mouth shut if I hear you say something you shouldn't." Even closer, he says, "You won't be lucky next time." Carefully, he places the girl unconscious on the ground. Just in time for the guards to find her. Desperate at the scene, they shout to take her to the hospital. Deep in the forest, there is a special place. That's where the mysterious dark-haired guy is heading. The peak is a large bony structure where at the top there is a skull with a halo. Someone calls him. Without wasting time, he says he heard that his form was exposed. Behind Yan, there are two wolves. The one with gray fur transforms into a beautiful human form, revealing that she knows quite a lot about what happened and asks if he solved the problem with the girl who caught him. He is surprised at how fast the news spread, but she, the older sister, reminds him that he shouldn't underestimate her information network. But getting straight to the point, Yan says she was nobody important, and in any case, she wasn't captured by the others' electronic devices, and the question they want to know. Isn't he even a little worried that she might spread rumors? However, the middle brother doesn't have that kind of concern. After all, humans are all the same. Saying all kinds of nonsense when they face the unknown in a way that no one would ever believe. Not to mention that some would even start praying to their gods. Which for Yan is a shame, since their god is nothing more than a small thief. The siblings just watch him. Then the guy continues and talks about the other types of people who are the ones who collapse when they get scared and then curl up and hide like armadillos, being very funny. His siblings remind him that only cats play with their food. Yan defends himself, saying that he's treating it like a toy. This time, Chun, the youngest, says that only dogs like to play. As punishment, the brown wolf ends up getting kicked for saying what he shouldn't. Ignoring the boys' bickering, she warns that they can't afford to be discovered after all the others' weapons are advancing very fast, putting them at risk of being destroyed at any moment. The older sister has something to give to Yan. It's something that has been passed down in the family. A fragment of a heart which she managed to find a way to extract. Then she asks him to take good care of it, because if he loses it, she won't be able to save him. Yan thanks her while analyzing that shining crystal. She explains that he must use the fragment to find the guardian and the heart that he is guarding. Only then will their species have a chance to survive. While looking at that beautiful sculpture, the guy thinks about his mother. Clenching his fist, squeezing that stone, as if at that moment he were sealing a promise. This action of his was casual, just his brain doing something unconscious. But it generated something. Yan notices that the fragment reacted to his squeeze. Chun comments that this isn't even necessary, but wonders if it's reacting because of the bandage and if that is their guardian, which doesn't make much sense. The siblings try to understand what's happening and think if it's really possible that that girl, a mere common and incompetent human, is actually the guardian. Looking closely, Yan believes that it really is that. After this event, another night passes. Our mysterious dark-haired guy is around the neighborhood jumping on rooftops stealthily. The house he came to investigate is much bigger than he expected and seems to have decent security, concluding that the girl must be quite rich. Passing unnoticed by the men, he approaches the window, putting his head up to take a good look. Zhu is in her room working on something pretty hard to understand. Whatever it is, it's going very well. It's all about a trap where whoever enters from any side will fall into it and it will alert her. She knows there's no way she can capture him, but at least she'll be awake when he comes. Zhu is doing this as a way to ease some worries because of that man in black, and with her trap, there's only a small chance he'll escape. And if she's lucky, she might even get a photo, so the police will be more likely to believe that this person can turn into an animal. Yan, who watches all of this, gives a small smile, remembering that it was because of this little mouse that he was questioned all afternoon. Now comes a bold move from the wolf, who uses some kind of magic, blowing into the room. This small current of air passes by the girl, who wasn't expecting anything like that at all. And then into her trap, making everything turn into a mess. That disappoints her because all her hard work was wasted. Meanwhile, Yan has fun with this little prank of his. He takes the fragment out of his pocket, remembering something. The guy wonders why until now it hasn't reacted like it did that time. The doubt arises. Am I too far away, or does it have nothing to do with her? In this distraction, Yan notices that something is happening with the girl. Shu Ting is holding a small mirror looking at herself. But being very clever, the girl used it to see the reflection of her stalker. She remembers that Yan, the troublemaking girl, is still in the ICU. Shu takes a peek, looking straight at the door, thinking she should do something quickly. She quickly stands up, running to the door. At that moment, Yan also moves, stopping her from reaching her goal and grabbing her hand before it touched the doorknob, and threateningly said, "What did I say? You should keep your mouth shut," whispering in the girl's ear, "Do you dare report me to the police like that?" Being his defenseless victim, Shu only thinks about why they haven't caught him yet. After all, she did all the work of identifying him for the police. Suddenly, someone approaches, startling especially our protagonist and putting the guy on alert. They knock on the door calling for Shu Ting. The person on the other side is worried after hearing noise, possibly because of that sabotage trap. With no answer, they call again until finally the girl responds saying she's there. The door is finally opened. One of the employees asks the young miss if everything is all right. The girl seems normal, as if nothing had been tormenting her. Zhu also answers that everything is fine, giving no sign that anything happened. But being very exemplary at her job, nothing goes unnoticed. And the woman notices the state of the girl's sleeve and warns that the master will scold her again if he sees that. Getting into even more trouble, the woman notices the state of the messy room and asks if she's collecting trash again, scolding her and making the girl remember what happened the last time she did something like that. Meanwhile, outside, Yan listens to the argument. The woman says the following: "In the end, I'm the one who still has to clean everything." Shu even tries to negotiate to leave a little behind, but it's not the time for jokes, and the wolf can only think that this girl is very strange. Finally, the servant leaves the room, and the dark-haired guy is satisfied that his little mouse behaved surprisingly well. Not having said a single word, she didn't even try to cheat by throwing subtle hints. But of course, Shu wouldn't say anything since he said he would kidnap anyone who witnessed his form, so she wants to know the reason. The girl bombards him with questions about attacking her classmate, but for some reason not devouring her. Then seeing him at the crime scene but not becoming another victim. Quite the opposite. Now the wolf has started stalking her. That's why she wants to know what he's trying to do. However, even while confronting him, her body is trembling and she wonders if there's anything she can do. Not to mention, she doesn't even really know what he is. Yan simply answers her saying that he's doing all of this because it's funny. It's not just about immediately devouring the prey, but about feeling the way his toy trembles, the high-pitched screams of despair. He continues, and the way they behave, living in constant terror without knowing when danger will strike, and that's what they live for. Finally, Shu cuts off this monster's speech. She calls him a murderer and assures him that he will be caught sooner or later. The girl thinks that if she can stay calm, maybe she can get him reported again. And the idea crosses her mind that if two people accuse him of being a killer, maybe they will believe it. But in that moment, in a moment of despair, she throws herself to the ground, surrendering to the killer, because if he's going to tear her apart, then he should just do it and get it over with. After all, it's not like the girl could overpower him or escape. Yan looks at her. Then he starts to laugh, going serious again. The wolf has a proposal, asking her to close her eyes and not move, telling her to be a good girl and cooperate with one thing, and that way he won't hurt her and she'll be able to get rid of him. Even thinking this might be too good to be true, the girl agrees to do it. In the end, it's not like things could get any worse than they already are. Meanwhile, Yan tests his theory. However, the fragment is not reacting like it did that time, which makes him think if it was because of the bandage, which makes total sense since it was given to him kindly as a thank you for a life saved, there was no fear and no negative feeling behind the good gesture. Going back to Yan, he thinks about who else could have come into contact with that besides Shu, considering the possibility that it was the pharmacist who sold it, or going even further, guessing it was whoever made it. He wants to understand if he let something very important slip by unnoticed. And then all his doubts are put to the test when the fragment starts reacting. That scares Shu, who immediately stands up terrified. After all, what is this thing that looks like veins running through her skin? A sensation as if something were flowing like a thin line of water. If the girl's room was already a mess, then it got worse when an intense gust of wind threw everything in all directions, stopping right after, revealing the figure of a giant black wolf. A bit scared, Shu stares into those frightening red eyes and asks why he suddenly transformed. Turning back into human, it's Yan who wants to know what kind of monster she is. This is the first time Shu has met such a hypocritical person. After all, the monster there is him, the pot calling the kettle black. And out of the two of them, it's not this poor and innocent girl who turns into a wolf and attacks people. Meanwhile, the dark-haired guy is analyzing. By the smell, it's clear she's a normal human, and he realized that the fragment actually reacts to her belongings. But now that the item was absorbed, her body is different. So Yan simply grabs her even under protest and clearly breaking the promise that he would leave everything in peace if she cooperated, then tells the girl to stay quiet because he also has no interest in having anything with her. The mysterious dark-haired guy is taking her to the wolf's den in order to find out what Shu really is. It's already very late at night, and the girl remains on the wolf's back being dragged around the world without even having any idea where she's actually going. But she's not very thrilled about this situation either. Suddenly, something catches her attention. There's a suspicious guy around making her think he's a thief. And he's not the only one there. Finally, Yan stops, placing her on a very isolated tree and tells her to stay there very quietly. He then jumps away, leaving her behind, and, well, it's not like in that condition the girl could move anyway. Meanwhile, Yan grabs the wolf and throws him far away. The creature tries to explain that they were just following the suspicious guy and ended up there by accident. But the dark-haired guy isn't worried about that. After all, they knew that area is his and still had the audacity to come cause trouble. Then he asks, "Where does all this arrogance come from?" Still protected in the tree, Shu has no idea what's going on because she can't see anything but believes that the drunk guy is safe. At that moment, the girl thinks about the dark-haired guy who saved her life when she was about to fall when she was cornered, so she's in doubt whether he's there to eliminate or save another person. Still thinking, she realizes she probably won't see him for a good while until things get settled. Going back to Yan, he is received by his siblings. The guy immediately kicks Chun in the face before the wolf could knock him down and says in a bad mood, "We just received 2 intruders? Is that how you patrol the territory?" The youngest has an excuse that they spread the scent everywhere, which made it take longer to track them. That was something they learned very well from the cunning of human beings, breaking the tense mood between the boys. She wants to know why she was called since she warned she would be busy all day. The dark-haired guy already makes it clear that he has good and bad news. The good is that he found the Guardian making the fragment's reaction so intense that it was hard to believe what was happening. The bad news is that it was completely absorbed, and when that happened, he felt as if part of his body had also been taken away. Yan transforms, leaving his siblings confused because it's in a strange and sudden way that makes Chun question if it's some kind of act. But the dark-haired guy ignores it because there's something he wants to find out. Using his night vision, he discovers that Shu is running away just like he imagined she would. Yan starts running without giving an explanation. Then Chun explains that it's about the girl who gave the bandage because he can smell her scent on his brother. A few moments later, she explains that a part of the dark-haired guy's body, together with the fragment, was absorbed by the girl. And when they are not together, Yan can't even maintain his human form. Zhu is there listening to everything after being brought back once she was tracked down. The older sister says it will take some time to figure out a way to recover the fragment. So until then, Yan is forbidden from staying away from her. Of course, that news doesn't please Shu at all. Having this annoying guy following her around, not to mention he didn't even keep the promise that he would leave her alone if she did what he asked. At the den, Shu comes across things she never imagined she would witness. like the wolves just gathered enjoying the sunny day as a family. It's really very hard to believe that things look like this, like the siblings gathered like normal people. Even crazier for her mind is seeing Chun asking his brother to change his slippers because he had just cleaned the floor. Shouldn't they be living like wild wolves? She thinks a bit about the giant canine creature casually entering the house, living on the outskirts of the city, and even so apparently the neighbors haven't seen him. And another thing, aren't they worried about the girl reporting them? Then it's Yan who answers her question, saying that the fact they brought her there means they're not really worried about her telling others. That catches Shu off guard, and she believes the guy might be able to read minds. The dark-haired guy even encourages her to run to the police and report him to get him arrested, but guarantees that all that attitude would be useless. Cornered, Zhu asks why all of this is happening. With that usual mischievous smile, he answers, "Try to guess." The girl grabs the hem of her clothes in an attempt to stop her hands from shaking, being completely affected by this situation. That feeling once again doesn't go unnoticed by Yan, who seems to have some kind of connection with her, more than he imagined, to the point of suddenly transforming into a wolf. That causes different reactions. Chun angry because he had just cleaned everything, and even so, his brother insists on being the messiest person, and she realizing that things are more complicated than she thought. Meanwhile, the other two are in a small confrontation. Shu remembers she mentioning about her ability to control part of the animal transformation, while the dark-haired guy is still trying to understand what kind of pressure that was that he just felt. Then the two come to the conclusion that the transformation depends on the protagonist's mood. An idea crosses her mind. What if she uses that to protect herself? Would she be safe that way? That makes her very happy. Suddenly, something sparks in Yan's head, surprising everyone and leaving him desperate to know if there's something going on. The guy demands that she control her emotions. Yan grabs the girl by the cheek, asking her to stop that happy feeling that is messing with his head. Silently, the oldest sibling works to take a look at the past and what is still to come in the girl's life. In the meantime, while they were together, it was already dark outside, and the siblings' house was one of the few in the neighborhood lit by the artificial lights of the lamps. Meanwhile, the older woman works silently, ignoring the small bickering that Yan and Shu were having. Suddenly, a small cut appears on her finger, making a thin line of vital fluid come out. Chun is the first to notice that something is happening. Worried, he goes to his sister, wanting to know if everything is all right, and the woman says yes. But by Yan's face, it doesn't seem like he bought that idea. Ji shakes her head in a silent sign, and the guy understands well. Then the three of them turn their eyes to the poor and innocent girl, who doesn't understand why they're acting like that all of a sudden. Giving a maybe affectionate nickname to the brat, Yan calls her Quail and says they need to talk. But before that happens, Shu wants her demands to be met first, making the dark-haired guy smile, realizing she wants to negotiate, and he lets her say her terms. Shu Ting makes it clear that he doesn't have permission to hurt her nor devour her. She does that because she understands the fragment must be very important to the wolf, even more depending on her to maintain his human form, so she's safe for the moment. Finally, the girl says that if he promises that, then they can talk. Obviously, her proposal is accepted. The girl becomes very happy realizing her guess was right since the guy practically confirmed it. And all that euphoria once again starts blooming in the wolf's head, who irritably asks her to control her emotions. Meanwhile, safe at home, the quartet has no idea that in the darkness, someone is watching them. Going back to the pack, Yan takes off his coat. Then he ties it around his waist. That gesture was made with an observer. He questions the girl about what she's looking at. Zhu is just surprised that he wears casual clothes since she imagined wolves only had one type of outfit, probably when they're in human form to blend in among people. Yan then drops the line, "My interest in your brain right now is greater than my interest in your heart." In the end, the two of them find each other strange. Suddenly, the guy moves closer, leaving her agitated, trying to understand what he's going to do. However, Yan simply picks her up, explaining that he'll take her home, leaving her surprised and excited to finally return to her house. Chun is also on escort duty, having also noticed that someone was sneaking around there for a moment, knowing by the smell that it's the troublemaker from before. Each brother goes in a different direction. Not being able to see anything properly, Shu believes the creatures are all of the same species, coming to the conclusion that all of them probably come from a mysterious and terrifying world she doesn't know. At least she managed to survive this madness, and so her heart can rest in peace. She can't avoid the tiredness since it's the time she usually sleeps, so she doesn't mind giving in to sleep while wishing all of this were just a dream. She is left comfortably in her bed, but when she wakes up, she realizes nothing was a dream but the purest reality, which leaves her very irritated. The next day, and fully awake, Shu gets up, wanting to prove her theory that the wolf is nearby and looks for him on the rooftop because that's where he appeared last time, which means he might be there again. As expected, this pervert is stalking her like a ghost. Shu climbs out the window and up onto the roof. When she reaches the guy, she notices he's sleeping peacefully and wonders how she ended up in bed the previous night. Probably the dark-haired guy didn't want to wake her, which makes her question, could he actually be caring? Zhu gets lost watching him and thinking that the guy also needs sleep and that maybe wolves are nocturnal. This will be her opening in case a way is found to recover the fragment and the promise not to hurt or devour her is not kept. So, like in the movies, she needs the sleeping beauty to fall asleep and aim right at the heart. At dawn, someone sneaks across the neighborhood rooftops. It's the older she-wolf, looking for a certain place based on the scent of her target. And her sense of smell never fails. Peeking through the window, she sees Shu sleeping in a very cute way while her brother tries to wake her up. The girl gets up very sleepy and he's ready for them to talk. But Shu has no idea what it's about, though she remembers the promise that she won't be devoured. With Yan confirming that, she just says, then good night, and goes back to sleep, leaving the guy incredulous at that. Irritated, the wolf says she's doing it on purpose. Luckily, his sister calms him down, reminding him that they still need the girl. Not to mention, Shu sleeps very peacefully in bed, as if no harm could even disturb her in her dream. After staring at her for a while, irritated, Yan looks away. He's on the roof with his sister. The sun is about to rise, so she is brief and says they need to complete 3 tasks. First, discover her special abilities and find the heart. Second, take care of her and her emotions, and lastly, protect her. Obviously, that doesn't please him. He at least understood the first mission, but the rest basically pushed him into being that brat's babysitter, even though she's 17. At first, she wondered how an ordinary human could get involved with their species, and yet the fragment, along with a part of her brother, was absorbed by that girl. That gem chose her just as it chose the guy. Therefore, the task is his. Yan comments that he thought the hardest part would be finding the so-called guardian, but apparently he was wrong, and didn't expect the most problematic thing to be this. Hearing that the woman says it seems like he still hates humans, his answer is that he's not like his sister. The girl seems to stay calm while counting the beads of her japamala, a kind of sacred Buddhist necklace for meditation. Changing the subject and remembering those looks from earlier, Yan asks what she saw in Shu's future. But to his surprise, nothing was seen. She explains that their den is where the clan originated and where their abilities are strongest. In other words, she should have been able to see everything. However, she couldn't even catch the slightest glimpse of that girl's future. For a human to have no future can only mean one thing: death is coming. Going back to that morning, the truth is the guy didn't sleep at all thinking about how danger could come upon the girl, even wondering if it could be by the hand of someone from his own species. Noticing a presence approaching, he closes his eyes. With his wolf ability, he can sense everything the girl does to reach the roof. Shu grabs a loose piece from the rooftop and aims it at his chest, making him open his eyes to stare at her, and the girl simply throws the piece away as if it were nothing. This is the strangest girl he has ever seen. Shu laments, "Who am I trying to fool? I can't even kill a chicken on New Year's." With a big smile, Yan is fully awake and wishes her good morning. The girl responds and believes the dark-haired guy was sleeping, and that's why he didn't see anything. However, catching her completely off guard, the wolf grabs her hand, bringing it to his heart. Shu lets herself follow his intention, and is surprised when she realizes something shocking. Actually, there's nothing to realize because there's no heartbeat there. Since wolves don't have a heart, Shu tries to find out more by touching the guy's arm, who pulls away without understanding her action. The girl is curious about how his skin has color since he doesn't have a heart to pump vital fluid, questioning whether he shouldn't be pale like the undead and if by any chance he applied something to have a normal tone. Yan finds it amusing the kind of question asked in such a shocking situation like this, and says that this dog always finds new ways to surprise him. The girl still hasn't had her doubts answered and bombards him with questions once again, wanting to know if he's a ghost, and that's why he's always clinging to her. The wolf denies being a ghost, but reveals that he's by her side because they need her help with something and hope she can help find something. Leaving the girl surprised. After all, what audacity to ask a human for help while scaring her? No one asks like that. Zhu also doesn't want to get involved in their world because it seems very dangerous, not to mention she has her own life. So she asks, "What if I don't agree?" But she can't escape this responsibility because the fragment chose her. Shu is shocked that she was really forced to accept this just like that, not to mention she has no idea what this gem even is. While the girl is lost in her thoughts, the wolf watches her, noticing that once again her eyes are moving quickly, and the last time that happened, she called the police. To ease the situation, Yan will let her make a request. After all, one will have to help the other since they have what humans call an agreement. But because of what happened last time, Shu is suspicious of this, since it was promised she could leave if she cooperated, and that's not what happened. Instead, she was kidnapped after the fragment incident. So there's no way she trusts him. Noticing the girl's strange look, the wolf says he's letting her make a request to eliminate the rivalry between the two, since he can still get what he wants by kidnapping her. Threateningly, he adds, "This is no longer a problem for me." He gives the girl 3 seconds to make a request or she'll be kidnapped. Yan starts counting while Zhu gets desperate because the law no longer works, at least not with wolves. He reaches 3. Shu screams, accepting the offer to make a request. The guy smiles as if saying, "See, that wasn't hard." But she also intends to treat this bastard like a wishing well, and demands that he give her $3 million. Yan isn't even surprised since he expected the quail brain to ask for something very out of the ordinary. But he doesn't budge and tells her to change the wish. The dark-haired guy starts a new countdown, but Shu already has a request. She wants a home. Not only that, but also a family. Which doesn't make much sense to him, since the girl lives in a big house with a nice yard, not to mention according to her, her parents treat her well too. So that doesn't make much sense. Yan wants to understand the reason for the request. However, not even Shu knows how to explain it because it just suddenly came to her mind. But being honest, what she really wants is someone who listens to her, supports her, and shows up when she needs help. In a mocking tone, Yan asks if she doesn't have many friends, hitting the mark with that. At least he understands that the girl is one of those children who comes from a rich family but without affection, so he agrees to play house fulfilling the things she just said. However, Shu is still thoughtful, because even though it's what she asked for, it's not what she expected, but she'll put up with it for now. Otherwise, she knows she'll be threatened again. At least she'll have time to find a way to get rid of him. Yan interrupts her thoughts by saying they'll start by confirming her ability. The wolf explains that as she saw before he can manipulate the air however he wants. While she can retrieve information through thoughts, with her having absorbed the fragment, he wants to know what she gained from it. Shu immediately thinks it's like superhero movie powers, even imagining being like Avatar Aang. She didn't expect such good news. That way it'll be even better because by learning to control it, she'll be able to use her ability to get rid of the wolf. But Yan quickly ruins her excitement, telling her not to get too excited, claiming the girl won't be able to defeat him. That's because he'll be her only teacher, and asks, "How could you hurt the person who taught you?" But Shu doesn't mind being a coward. Taking advantage of that, the dark-haired guy asks what she was going to do with that roof tile. Before she could answer, someone calls Zhu. It's her aunt. The girl rushes because she knows she'll get scolded if she's caught there. With haste being the enemy of perfection, she ends up slipping down the roof. Luckily, once again, she's saved by Yan from falling. The dark-haired guy puts her in her room and makes it clear he only did that because he needs her help, so he tells her to be careful. Before leaving, he says they'll meet later at school. His plan was to leave after finding the person he was looking for, but apparently he'll have to go back to work. Ready to leave, Yan is caught off guard by the brat grabbing his foot. Immediately asking what she wants, he only took his eyes off this quail for 1 second, and she's already doing risky things. Even though we've known his name for centuries, Shu Ting finally introduces herself to the wolf, and says he hasn't introduced himself yet. Yan grabs the girl by the wrists, finally saying his name, which Shu repeats, learning the correct pronunciation. She asks what he is, if a demon, monster, wizard, ghost, or some kind of magical animal. Once again, her aunt calls saying she'll be late for school. Quickly, she shouts that she was already awake and ready to go. In the rush, the girl fixes the sleeve of her blouse that she had forgotten. Before she leaves, Yan reminds her that her class had an off-campus event that day. In an intriguing way, he says, "You'll find out what I am at the event." Shu finally arrives at school. After a bit of adventure, she had forgotten what her school life was like. Her desk is full of offensive notes. But that doesn't seem to shake her anymore. Maybe she's already used to this kind of treatment from her classmates. So for her, it's fine. Shu picks up one of the little papers, analyzing that it costs about 3 cents per kilogram. Apparently, she was the first to arrive, so she wonders when they put all this there. But soon, she starts hearing voices outside. Girls angry about what happened to the troublemaker Hijian, and about the protagonist lying saying an animal turned into a human. Shu is very well hidden with her mind in her own world. One of them even accuses Shu of having something wrong with her head, making another ask if the girl has hit her head before, and that finally gets her attention. A whole gossip session starts about Shu's mental health, with classmates terrified that the crazy girl might snap and hurt everyone there. That's what they believe, even though Hixian said the girl is just pretending to be stupid. They're about to talk about Shu's family when the girl finally says something, defending that she's not a liar and surprising everyone. The girl asks where she came from, and she reveals she was there the whole time. So they realize the protagonist had been listening to everything. But the other girl isn't intimidated, telling Shu to look at all those notes and reflect on why everyone hates her. Shu looks at the paper like a fool. For her, all the handwriting looks the same. So how could it have been everyone? That irritates the other troublemaker, who says the point is that everyone hates her. The girl shouts, "You keep saying you didn't lie, but don't you think it's absurd to say animals can turn into humans?" Not to mention Shu doesn't even have proof. It's very easy to tell that nonsense when there are no security camera images. To her, the protagonist is just getting revenge because her friend was a little mean. But Shu is distracted once again because the mention of the security camera caught her attention. After all, that might be why the police didn't do anything about it, so if she can record him transforming it, might be enough to scare the monster away. She just needs to find an opportunity for that. That irritates the girl for being ignored. She touches Shu to get her attention. Suddenly, the lights start acting strangely, seeming like some kind of circuit problem. But she ignores it and goes back to provoking Shu once again. When she touches her, one of the lights ends up falling. Luckily, it doesn't hurt anyone. Shu notices a ladder outside, which makes her wonder if it was Yan who helped her. The protagonist calls the two girls, who are way too scared, and says, even if it seems impossible, some things can simply happen. The girl thinks it's a joke and that everything was just a coincidence, but she's silenced when another light falls. Now these troublemakers realize who they're messing with, and even say to end the fight and go back to their seats, and they call Shu abnormal. At least that worked for everyone to leave her alone. But for some reason, the girl felt a little sad. Maybe because everyone will really stay away, isolating her and leaving her alone in her own company. On the other side, Yan is doing his job, which is somewhat dangerous, so kids don't try this at home. Shu finds him and says it was really him who did that. The guy just asks if she's happy. After all, she was sad earlier. His question catches Shu off guard, leaving her frozen without knowing what to say. She denies it and says it's not important. Nothing is more important than her life and her money. Yan teases her, asking if she likes money that much. Shu isn't intimidated and doesn't deny it either, saying it's because there's something she wants to do. But anyway, she doesn't go into it because she's just there to thank him. The wolf brushes it off and claims he only helped her because he didn't want to transform in a place like that. Acting strange, Shu asks if he's going to throw away the cut wires and asks to keep them since he doesn't need them. Yan hands them over. Quickly, the girl grabs them and runs off ready to sell them. The wolf stays behind thinking about how much this brat loves money. But he doesn't care about that. He just needs to focus on finding a way to break this connection since he can't handle this situation anymore, of transforming randomly or having flowers blooming on his head. Or who knows what might appear next. Suddenly, someone pulls Yan's coat that's tied around his waist. Shu is back just to ask if he'll be at the off-campus school event. Provocative, he asks if she wants him there. With a very sweet and cute tone, the protagonist confirms, and says she wants the two of them to go together. Abruptly, Yan steps away, making it clear not to create dependency since they're only involved for business. He then walks away. But not far enough because he can hear Shu say that's not what a familiar would say, making the dark-haired guy stop and look back. She provokes him, saying, "Who knows what might happen to you if I get unhappy?" Yan walks up to Shu, holding her head with the excuse of seeing what's inside her brain, because how does a mere human dare to threaten him like that? Not to mention she's quite confident when she should be more afraid, but well remembered that he was the one who suggested the agreement. Shu answers the wolf that in first period, there's a whole page of multiple choice questions she left from the previous day. Suddenly, they notice someone approaching. The girl quickly slips out of the wolf's arms. She runs while reminding him he needs to go to the event. After all, she has her secret plan to use it as an opportunity to film the transformation. Zhu stops at the doorway. Thinking that with all the power wolves it would have been easier to threaten than make a deal, Yan really is a very strange creature. The trip moment has begun. The students are asked to line up according to grade and class. Once the class representatives finish roll call, they'll head to the ruins. As soon as it's done, everyone heads to their respective buses. And soon they're at the beautiful place. But this is where Shu met Yan and his whole family. So nothing new for her. While everyone has fun taking selfies for memories, the strange Shu Ting is completely in her secret world. Once again, the students are asked to gather, following the same pattern as on the bus, so they can visit the ruins and later do some group activities in the afternoon. Arriving at the ruins, they're given free time to explore as much as they want, but obviously being careful to stay safe. They're also told to pay attention to the time and gather there again at 5 p.m. All this time, the girl looks around searching for Yan, but feels sad noticing he's not there. Which makes her think about what they said, that his human form wouldn't last if they were too far apart and, well, the ruins are pretty far from the school. Anyway, it's a shame she can't get evidence. So after this, she has no idea what her next opportunity will be. The place is known as the Dwelling of God, besides being beautiful not only because of the ruins, but also because of the incredible natural landscape. White doves pass by Shu. Her eyes shine with emotion because after 17 years of existence, she finally feels what it means to be stunned. The guide continues narrating the history of the place, saying that in the folklore of the local ethnic groups, this place was considered the dwelling of God, the one who gave his heart to his faithful, producing gifts that allowed humans to drive away monsters and plagues and put an end to a century of disaster. Shu is in front of something that feels alive before her eyes. The world stopped, and her heart raced. Unlike the gods of other cultures, this one faced away from the people because according to legends, he was compassionate and couldn't bear to see people suffer. For Shu Ting, for a moment, for a fraction of a second, the world became completely silent, except for a familiar voice shouting, "Xu Ting," and she immediately responds to the presence. The girl gets scolded and is told to at least pretend she's paying attention, and warned that if it happens again, she'll have to write an essay evaluating the folklore that was just discussed. With everything settled, the teacher continues. Everyone is asked to look up. The birds together at that moment symbolize freedom. There's something more Zhu notices. It's possible to see tears, which means he is compassionate and kind. The ruins tour ends and the teenagers are taken to explore another place, starting a new group activity heading to the open field nearby. One of the girls asks if it's going to be the three-legged race they were practicing. The woman confirms. The teacher also says there will be prizes and asks them to get ready to take some nice group photos. She unfolds the ticket sheets, which means they'll be able to go on the rides for free. And of course, that catches our protagonist's attention, since each one costs about 280 wens, or just $80. The teacher asks them to form the groups. Everyone in Shu's class is already in position, and without feeling intimidated, the girl stretches out her arm to form a human chain, all for those tickets. In their positions, the red flag waves, starting the race. Zhu's team runs, but it already starts badly, with one girl stepping on another's foot and throwing off the rest. That causes an argument because even though they practiced every time, this always happens, with accusations of someone taking bigger steps than the others. Shu is worried because this is putting her prize at risk. Not allowing that to happen, she calls out to her classmates. And it's necessary to explain how they should run together, asking them to pay attention to the steps of the group ahead. Even in such a serious moment, Shu gets lost in her thoughts when she notices that everyone is really paying attention to what she's saying. That's pretty nice, even if they aren't friends. Anyway, the group in front trips, and this is their chance to turn things around. The group wins, and while the others celebrate, Shu finds it very strange that it was so easy, like it was a miracle. Seeing the girls happy, the protagonist even wonders if she should try to fit in. But they just move away as if Shu didn't exist. They only cared about the tickets. The girl's hand is still left hanging in the air, but soon another hand meets it. It's Yan, surprising her by appearing out of nowhere and asking why she's holding her hand out like an idiot. But all Shu cares about is that he's finally there. The protagonist is impressed by the high five. It may seem silly, but not for someone who never even received something like that from others. She steps back, asking what he's doing there. The dark-haired guy says he's making sure she keeps her part of the deal. With that smile, he says, "Did you think you could give me orders without doing anything?" Shu isn't even surprised by that. Yan wants to take advantage of the fact that the girl will be spending the night there, asking them to meet at the back entrance of the lodge to find out exactly about her abilities. But the girl suggests they meet at the ruins, because she really likes that god, finding the statue beautiful and well sculpted, giving off a friendly feeling. Yan, with a deep and frightening voice, tells her to shut up, refusing to go there because it is omnipresent. At that moment, the dark-haired guy looked like the twisted Yan she met for the first time. Finally, night falls. Shu shares the room with a classmate, who luckily for her is already asleep, and this is her moment. Since she can't turn on the lights, it's very hard to see, making it a difficult task to find her shoes. A beautiful and glowing butterfly appears, catching the girl's attention. Shu goes to the window to see it better, amazed that something like that exists. She gets desperate when she sees the butterfly flying away, and even worse, it's heading in the opposite direction of the back entrance. Shu takes the risk of going there just to make sure she gets good photos. After all, Yan won't get mad if she's really quick. So she follows the glowing butterfly. What's strange is that the statue from earlier ends up appearing in the photo. She walked so much that she didn't even realize how far she had gone. Shu Ting greets the statue, saying they were destined to meet again. Then that beautiful glowing butterfly turns into something terrible. But the protagonist, distracted by the photos, doesn't even notice. That monster can hear the beating of her heart, letting out a terrifying sound right after. Shu trembles with fear. And when she turns around, it's too late. The monster is already attacking. The protagonist barely manages to dodge. That monster is enraged, wanting her heart. Unfortunately, Shu can't run faster than it. She wonders why she always ends up running into monsters. First Yan, and now this one. Shu closes her eyes, waiting for her end, but something makes her open them. A huge black wolf with red eyes is attacking the monster. With one bite, it throws the creature far away, and it turns back into that butterfly. Yan realizes his strength is fading, just like his hearing and sense of smell were weaker than normal when he was looking for the girl, starting to believe it's because she's afraid. Meanwhile, Zhu notices that moths seem to be surrounding them, and knowing that each one can turn into that monster, she wonders what they are, and why there are so many. Yan is the one who answers her. "Didn't you say what I am a moment ago? They're like me, they're monsters." The dark-haired guy says both things exist in the same way because they're the same type. Shu asks what exactly those things are. More butterflies transform into the creatures. While preparing for a serious fight, Yan explains that they are beings from the other side of this world who had their hearts stolen by her god. Those words hit the girl, who is already tense enough to understand very well. Shu argues back because she heard that the god gave his own heart to humans to help them. Yan asks, to drive away monsters and plagues? In other words, what they are. He explains that demons, monsters, and plagues in folklore, or anything humans can't understand or believe exists, is what they are. So the gods stole their hearts and used them to erase their existence and also forced them to wander on this side of the world, over time being worshipped and believed as he is. Yan says, "That supposed great god of yours is nothing but a liar." The wolf touches the ground and the light that was there spreads like a root, creating cracks in the ground and hitting the monsters. Shu is impressed. But there's no time to celebrate because more start arriving. Will Yan be able to handle all of this? The girl looks at him strangely and asks if he's okay. Yan is worried that there are too many there, so he'll have to think of something else to solve the problem. More important than that, he can't leave the girl alone. Before another one appears, he needs to do something. Yan asks Shu to take off her clothes. Obviously, that suggestion is not welcome, but he ignores her protests and pulls off her sweater. Yan then puts his necklace on her to hide the monster's scent that targets her heart. He also tells her to leave her clothes there to distract them for a while until they fully transform. The wolf orders her to cross the forest and look for his brother Chun and stay with him. Zhu is still frozen, so the guy shouts, telling her to run. She's worried because she understood that these monsters are very hard to face alone. Not to mention that since the beginning, it's as if she can feel that the dark-haired guy is weak at that moment. She knows that when she comes back to help, it might be too late. She can't let Yan die. She just needs to find a way. One of the creatures fallen on the ground catches Shu's attention. She stops looking at it. Realizing by the pattern that they are actually moths, thinking that Yan's true form is a wolf and that he always says his sense of smell is sharper than humans, she wonders if that means these creatures share characteristics with their animal form. And for a moth, what would that be? Of course, its weakness is fire. Shu shouts that she found a solution and tells him not to push himself too hard. Obviously, that leaves Yan alarmed. Another attack is made. And the wolf immediately grabs the creature by the throat, throwing it far away. He stands in front of Shu like a protective shadow, but the girl won't accept that role and asks if he didn't hear her. Yan doesn't care and doesn't want to know what idiotic idea came into her mind. He just wants her to go, being cruel in saying that she did nothing but cause trouble by staying there. He tells her to do what he asked. After all, the girl still has the fragment, making her responsible if something happens. With a low voice, almost hard to hear, Shu finally agrees, apologizing for everything she caused. And so she steps away. Yan even looks back as if finally feeling the weight of his words. But it's no time to think about nonsense when an army of monsters is there. Meanwhile, Shu runs desperately for her life. Her heart, because of fear and running, beats even harder. And to the creatures, it's like a call, louder and faster in its rhythm. But at least she escaped those ruins. After looking back, her path continues. Back to Yan. Now in his giant wolf form, his prey are torn apart like rag dolls being ripped. However, there are more than he thought, as if they never stop coming. And at this point, the wolf is completely weak. If they don't stop, it could be his end. There's something there he can't identify. Yan then remembers what his sister said. The situation is that a part of your body, along with the fragment, was absorbed by her. When you're too far away, you won't even be able to maintain your human form. Maybe that makes sense, but it's not the time to think about it. These monsters rush at him, surrounding him from all sides. Even being swallowed by those mutant moths, he can see in the distance a bit of fire. That makes him remember something, of furious people holding torches and shouting to capture and burn him. Yan was just a child. The little one's thought is why this time was different, but without caring about what could happen, because all he wanted was to find his mother and leave together. But those people who tied him with barbed wire kept shouting to skin him and leave him like what was left of his mother. They said, "Sorry, boy. You can only blame yourself for being born like this." With tears in his eyes, the little one waited for his end. The same flame reflects in the wolf's eye. But this time, it's not suffering. It's a spark of hope. Shu is back, riding a bicycle and holding a torch. That makes all the monsters turn their attention to her, and sets off an alarm in the wolf because this idiot girl had the audacity to come back. The Mothmen are drawn to the light. Maybe that's how they can see a human heart. But at least Shu's plan is working. As they get closer, she starts pedaling. She needs to be fast. Very fast, or those monsters might catch her. Finally, she reaches the spot of her trap. Shu throws the torch onto the pile she set up. Soon the fire spreads, scaring not only the creature, but leaving the girl impressed that her plan is actually going to work. Answering the call, the Mothmen jump straight into the flame one by one. She lowers her head to protect herself. But even so, one dares to attack her. A strong gust of wind sends the creature flying away. Back in his human form, Yan manages to catch Shu just in time. The girl is surprised and says it's not the time to talk, but wants to know if that was the brilliant idea she mentioned before. Showing dominance, the girl says, "Well, it's working, isn't it?" Even if he mocks her for bringing fire to the mountain. Changing the subject, the wolf says they need to think about how to get back since the bicycle is broken with no chance of fixing it and he's too weak to carry her. Shu Ting doesn't intend to leave. She doesn't want to go and asks him to rest a little while she protects him, assuring him she'll warn him if more of those strange things appear. She also says that when a car passes in the morning, she'll hitch a ride to Chun so he can help them. Shu also has a plan to hide the bodies of the Mothmen. But when she looks at the bonfire, their remains are being swept away. The air suddenly gets colder. The girl looks impressed at the sight of the bodies scattering into the air and drifting away like ashes in the wind, and her thought is, creatures so horrible, Who would have thought they'd be so beautiful in death? Shu keeps watching those fragments of light in the air while being silently observed by the wolf. Yan breaks the silence, saying not to worry, because his body will heal on its own during the night, and finishes with, "Although I expected you to want something bad to happen to me." And she doesn't even bother denying it. When she went to the city, it crossed her mind for a moment that if the guy were defeated and died, she would finally be free. But in the end, she realized he is actually helping her. Shu touches a part of her face, saying she got hurt right there. And because of that, she stutters when she speaks, and her thoughts come a little slower than other people's. So that's why everyone treats her like she's stupid. But now she knows what genuine kindness is. The girl says she knows he has his real reasons, but even so, he tried hard and saved her several times. With that, Shu declares that she wants to do something for him too. More than that, she wants him to survive. Yan smiles. It's small but real. Saying that, she always surprises him. Shu asks if he's laughing, and the dark-haired guy shows his state. Yan says she's not stupid, but actually very intelligent, revealing that he underestimated her. The girl is surprised by those words and asks him to repeat it, but Yan doesn't give compliments twice. Unable to control her emotions, it was already expected that a bouquet of flowers would appear on his head, but she's a little more excited, and the wolf form also appears. Even so, Shu insists asking him to at least repeat the intelligent part. Maybe that request is because she's never heard that before. Quickly changing the subject, another thing Shu wants to know is if he didn't know the monsters were attracted to light since he understands more. And she also wants to know if there are other kinds of creatures like a giant fast turtle that could devour her. The wolf throws his heavy fluffy tail at the girl, telling her to shut up and go to sleep, threatening that if she keeps talking, he won't take her back home. Thinking about it a little, the protagonist realizes that what she feels for him isn't just gratitude, but something bigger than that, and thinks it's because of the way he makes her feel. Shu tells him to rest a little and that she'll stay awake, and Yan tells her to shut up. What the protagonist feels is something she has longed for a long time. Some time passes and the wolf is already covered in snow. Suddenly, something makes him wake up. On alert, he wants to know who's there. The threat is just his silly brother Chun, who greets him very excitedly. At least they won't have to wait until dawn to get help. The younger brother explains that when he saw the ashes floating in the air, he immediately realized something was wrong. So he came straight to find him. Chun looks at the other strangely and asks if he's hurt because of the girl, and the only thing Yan says is that it's enough already. He tries to pull away his tail, but it's being held by Shu like a very soft blanket, her who was so confident when she said she would protect him. That makes Chun laugh a lot and say it must not be easy taking care of a human all day. No wonder he's working so hard to recover the fragment. And that's something that will happen. Yan confides that she looked into some old records, discovering that these guardians have appeared before more than once, and if one dies, it only takes a few years for the next to appear. The dark-haired guy asks if he still remembers what the woman said about not seeing anything in Shu's future, and then reveals that it's because the dead have no future. When the girl passes away, the fragment will leave her body on its own. Chun comments that in the end, the answer is unexpectedly simple, and that it's his choice anyway since he hates humans. And before he could finish the sentence, Yan says a loud and clear no, which surprises the younger brother a lot. Back in human form, Yan says that for now he's not thinking about that, and admiring the girl in his arms says it's rare to find a human being so simple, which is quite interesting. Chun, still surprised, says, simple-minded. Excited, he says that naive people are easy to control, and when guided by wisdom, even a humble tool can shape the future or something like that. Yan kicks his brother, asking what kind of series he's watching, and Chun says it's season 2 of Staying Healthy in Your 30s. Human emotions are hard to predict. Back to the children's dormitory. First, Shu left a note apologizing for what happened to the bicycle, with an amount for the repair, and of course regretting it. Now she needs to get back quickly so she won't get caught. Yan, without even hiding it, tells her not to forget to meet him after class and asks her not to go out alone, again. Zhu signals him to stay quiet and not get her into trouble, which the dark-haired guy doesn't seem to care much about. She runs in panic. With the girl gone, Yan wonders if he should look for a rooftop to wait, since it's better to keep an eye on things because he doesn't know what his sister saw about the fragment, so he must be cautious. With his sharp hearing, he hears that Shu's father has arrived, getting worried if she was caught, but he knows the girl can come up with a lie. Something happens. Yan wonders what that sound was that he just heard. When Shu went to her room, she was very careful not to make noise and wake her roommate. So if her plan works, nothing bad will happen. That's what she thought, looking around and not seeing anyone, which made her relieved. But without expecting it, a hand comes toward her and an irritated voice says, "I already told you not to do anything that could embarrass me." Shu manages to block the slap that was coming to her face, which only makes her father even more irritated. He asks what a lady is doing sneaking out at night. Raising his hand once again with an even harsher voice, he says the teacher called him in the middle of the night to talk about her disappearance, which was a tremendous embarrassment. And he also says, "Don't forget why I adopted you." He raises his hand again. But before it could hit Shu again, the window slams into the man's face. Yan appears and says, "Sorry," even with a big smile on his face. Without being intimidated, the dark-haired guy asks if he was about to hit the girl. The man, still a bit dazed, asks who he is. More people gather. The teacher appears wanting to know where the girl went because she was worried since her roommate reported her disappearance. The father falsely thanks the woman. Yan even stares at him, seeing how cynical he is. The father apologizes for the child causing so much trouble, even though the woman says it's fine. Shu also apologizes for causing concern. The teacher says he is a good father. And he says Shu has been a troublesome child since childhood, so he always had to take good care of her. Yan doesn't fall for that nonsense about being a good father. In fact, he even remembers the guardian's unusual request, asking for a home and a family, finally understanding the reason. After that fateful moment, it's time to go to school. As soon as Shu arrives, she becomes the subject of whispers among her classmates. But her thought is about meeting Yan later, and of course being more careful this time. The first thing the girl finds strange is her desk. They didn't leave any papers, so she won't have luck recycling. But something else more interesting catches her attention. Hee-Shian is apparently back at school, and now that she's awake, will Yan's identity be made public? And to make things worse, the police are there too. She gets worried considering the possibility that they're there to arrest Yan because no matter how powerful he is, he won't be able to defend himself against weapons. Zhu needs to help him. But he already hurt others before, and who knows how many victims he might have made before she knew him. After all, a hungry wolf like that wouldn't spare anything in his path. The protagonist is confused and torn about this situation. In fact, she wonders why she's so sure it was really him who hurt Hee-Jian, after throwing her backpack onto the chair without the slightest care. Shu immediately runs outside, and then barges into the logistics and engineering room without any ceremony. When she opens the door, she desperately shouts for the wolf. Yan is super calm, lying on the couch reading an apparently old newspaper with a photo of Shu and her father with the headline, "Kyushu, Philanthropist." The dark-haired guy already tells her not to scream since he heard her footsteps from miles away. But the girl doesn't care, and, euphoric, starts talking about the day they met and asks if he was really the one who attacked her classmate. Yan plays with her, asking, "What if I was? What if I wasn't?" and tells her to worry more about herself, leaving the girl doubtful. Feeling cool, Yan talks about how the whole school is gossiping about Shu sneaking out in the middle of the night to meet him, which only makes the situation worse, while the protagonist asks him to stay calm since it's her first romantic scandal. The wolf turns red like a pepper and asks if that's another thing for him to deal with. Shu surprises him by denying it. After all, the most important thing at that moment is that the student who got hurt is back with the police, and she asks what he plans to do about it. What could happen is that he gets punished for attacking others and still has his identity revealed. Shu is extremely nervous waiting for his answer, and Yan notices that. The guy agrees that his species cannot be discovered by humans because they would be taken and used as lab subjects in experiments. Besides that, if they start an investigation, it could turn into a serious conflict. He looks at the girl and asks if she wasn't the one who started those rumors about transforming into a monster. Shu says she'll tell everyone that she really has mental problems, and that when she panicked, she started saying nonsense. And even though Yan saw him, being the only witness, they might not fully believe her. Yan smiles and says, "Really? I thought you hated it when people gossiped about you." The guy doesn't want the worst to happen to her. What she intends to do will confirm all the rumors about her mental state, and they might use that excuse to exclude her even more, and those who are already mean might get worse. With a calm voice, he asks if she really thought it through. Shu says she can't change what they think and she'll use it to her advantage. Voices are heard outside with the police looking for the witness. The wolf says, "They're here, so I'll leave our secrets in your hands." The door soon opens. Shu tries not to show her nervousness. The teacher guides the police to the man they're looking for and finds it strange that Shu Ting is there, wanting to know the reason for her presence. More people enter the room, and outside the students are curious to know what's happening and about Hishan's return. Shu, as the guardian, is the first to speak, saying she's there as a witness of that day. But no one pays attention to what she says. A woman goes to Yan, thanking him a lot, saying the police told her about signs of an animal at the scene, and if it weren't for the dark-haired guy arriving in time and scaring it away, her daughter might have lost her life. Zhu's reaction is total confusion. Yan is being placed as the savior, which is confusing. Since that day, he said he didn't eat his Shen because he wanted to hear the prey scream, but apparently it wasn't him the whole time, and the protagonist thinks he only said that to scare her. Meanwhile, the classmates gossip about what they hear, and once again, Shu Ting gets labeled a liar since she shouted to everyone about the wolf, and they even start believing she did that to disrupt the investigation because she had problems with the other girl. Once again in her life, she's alone while everyone accuses her. However, she isn't intimidated and makes it clear she's listening. The others defend themselves, saying they're telling the truth, and the blonde next to her tells her to calm down, reminding her of the day the light almost exploded on her head. Zhu just ignores it. After all, there's no good way to explain it. Who would believe in an animal turning into a human? In the end, it was just gossip, and for her, it doesn't make a difference anymore. But this time, the protagonist isn't alone in this because Yan confirms he saw the same thing, leaving everyone shocked and the girl confused. Yan then begins. It was so dark in the forest that I couldn't see anything clearly, and I could barely keep my eyes open against the wind. There was blood all over the ground and echoes of a beast's howl. In those conditions, it's perfectly normal to misinterpret what you see. The guy says they really looked like humans running between the trees. And that Shu must have been scared too. Actually, she's impressed by how easily he can lie to the point of blending it with the truth so well that you can't tell where one begins or ends. The girl feels as if the weight pulling her down was lifted thanks to Yan. The surprises don't stop there. This time it's Hexian who tells her version, saying that Shu was trying to help her even in that terrifying moment, and that based on that, she doesn't believe the other girl would seek revenge over a personal conflict. The problem is, when did Shu help her? When did that happen? Xian says she was almost unconscious and that she heard everything. The girl explains that the monster gave Shu a choice, that she would be let go in exchange for being devoured, but she refused the offer. Because of that, the girl thanks the protagonist. Shu is speechless and doesn't understand why the other is shouting. Yan joins the conversation and says Shu deserves a proper thank you. The protagonist looks back. The wolf is carrying something. Then he reveals a dramatic thank you written on a tapestry and says he was also saved by the girl. Yan gives his version of the school trip, saying that when he was on his way to the bathroom, she stopped a thief who was following him, and that despite the danger, she did everything to save him, getting hurt in the process, and even says he has a witness. Shu is surprised about the witness and wonders if it's because he lies so well that the wolf manages to live among humans. Anyway, the dark-haired guy thanks her, thinking about the facts it's not a lie about being saved. He just had to change the story a little. That revelation creates more chatter among classmates, surprised that Shu was telling the truth all along and didn't do anything wrong. Yan smiles at the girl, who looks at him enchanted. She looks away slightly blushing and says, "You're welcome." But she's still a bit confused about the situation. Shu becomes the center of attention with people thanking her and others wanting details of what happened. And the teacher intends to spread her good deed to everyone. But the girl is hoping that doesn't happen because she can't afford to be exposed. Soon the commotion passes and she's free. Shu pushes a trash bag to open a path, hoping no one saw. Her plan is to meet Yan after it gets dark, and until then, she'll sell the bottles she collected. When she looks around, her bag of bottles has simply disappeared, leaving her incredulous that someone had the audacity to steal a bag of trash. Looking around, she spots it in a corner. When she gets there, she finds a dog carrying her things. It's a dog staring at her with an unfriendly look. With a cute voice, she asks the little animal to give her bag back, not noticing someone approaching from behind. The stranger calls her and says, "You smell delicious." Shu turns around thinking it's some kind of pervert, but she finds a human with a large tail. The stranger asks why she's stepping back and if it's because she's afraid. She keeps her distance since he might want to devour her after saying she smells good. Shu keeps stepping back, but ends up being stopped when she steps on her pile. Looking back, she sees that dog who apparently is also involved in this. The man approaches and says, it's just a trash bag and whoever finds it keeps it. That she'll only get dirty carrying that around and her parents won't be happy either. So he suggests she hand it over and in return he'll buy her a drink. Cornered, the protagonist wonders if it's going to be like last time with the Mothmen. Meanwhile, the stranger keeps offering her drinks, suggesting coffee with milk or fruit tea. A plate flies past the guy. Both he and the dog run after it like they're playing frisbee. This is her chance to escape. The one who catches the disc is the weirdo, who notices something. He goes up to her asking if she's treating him like a dog. Shu lets him keep the bottles while she grabs something. Even though she can't stop trembling, she stands firm and tells him to stay away, or she'll scream and expose his identity. Besides teasing her, saying she looks cute when she's angry, he asks if she thinks that simple broom will stop him, once again asking her to leave the bottles aside and inviting her for a drink. Shu's response is a broom smack. That's for bragging that her super powerful tool was useless against him. The girl gives him a few more good broom hits for calling her cute and for trying to eat her, making him regret it and apologize. A voice behind her asks, "Already done venting your anger?" It's Yan, impressed by how much energy the girl has and saying he won't have to worry about her endurance during training. Shu only has 2 questions. When did he get there and why does he always show up out of nowhere? With a smile, Yan answers that he was there the whole time and that he enjoyed the show, since he likes seeing the scared look the girl makes, leaving the protagonist angry because he's so mean. Yan notices that the 2 of them are trying to sneak away and surprises them since he didn't give permission for that. Then he calls them back because he has some questions to ask. While watching the dark-haired guy, Shu finally realizes that her body has simply stopped trembling. Back to Yan, he asks the 2 if when he allowed them to stay in his territory, he said they could steal bottles from girls. And even though they're shaking in fear, they manage to answer that it was for the grandma who took them in, and they also confirm that they went to the police as requested. Yan, who was listening to everything, remembers the invitation to have a drink and says, "Since you're alone, how about I take you out?" Scared, the 2 deny it, saying they were wrong and even apologize for it. The 2 had called Yan brother-in-law, and when apologizing to Shu, they call her sister-in-law, leaving the girl red like a pepper. Yan kicks the 2 and irritated asks if they're blind since she's just a child. Hearing that makes the protagonist thoughtful about how apparently all these creatures have a very long life expectancy, making a human's lifespan almost insignificant in comparison. And she wonders why she keeps thinking about this kind of thing lately. Shu calls Yan, thinking he turned into a shrimp from being so red. The red one, Yan, asks what nonsense she's thinking about, and tells her very delicately to control her emotions. Back to the 2 troublemakers, Yan steps on their tails and warns that he'll expel them from his territory if they do that again, and finally orders them to get out of his sight. The 2 run away like cowards, and there's no need to worry about their tails being visible since humans think it's just an accessory. It makes sense to Shu, but at the same time, she finds the scene of those 2 familiar. Well, at least now she has her bottles back, which makes her very happy, while Yan questions the fact that she put herself in danger over some plastic bottles and didn't ask for help. But Shu couldn't, not when that could put their identities at risk. Then everyone would be in danger without exception. After hearing that, the wolf laughs and says that compared to them, the girl is like a small animal. Even under the threat of getting hit with a trash bag, Yan says she has a small brain, but the girl ignores him because she has something more important, like selling her bottles. Curious, Yan wants to know why she's exactly so desperate to earn money. Because even though she lives in the attic, he noticed from the clothes she wears that her adoptive father doesn't seem stingy and asks if she really needs to go around collecting bottles to sell. Shu stays silent for a while, then reveals that she made her clothes herself. The protagonist collects old clothes, adjusts them to sell later. She also makes money that way because she wants to pay everything back to her father as quickly as possible. Not understanding, Yan asks what she means by that. Shu says the rules. The first is to reimburse him for all the money spent raising her, and the second is to be obedient and presentable to maintain his public image. Those were the conditions of her adoption. Because of that, she needs to save money, and when she gets to college, she'll work part-time to pay him back even faster. And her goal after graduating is to become a stylist and, of course, travel all over the world, getting inspired by all the different views. Shu hopes that when she becomes an adult and pays everything back, she'll finally be free. A voice says, "Don't move, you can hide here." The boy says that no one knows the place except him. That is hope for the little wolf, who thanks him with his bright, teary eyes. The blonde says there's no need to thank him since he was helped several times by Yan, and besides that, they're best friends. But those furious people carrying torches caught him. Then, already in his animal form, Yan met the other wolves, calling him to live in the pack since that's their lifestyle. They're never alone. Unfortunately, he wasn't well accepted since some feared he had bad intentions, while another defended him, saying the hunt would be difficult so they would need to borrow his strength. Because even though he's young, his physique is like theirs. People are like that. Either they charm you with sweet words, or they hide like larvae plotting to feed on every drop of your vital fluid. A bird falls to the ground badly injured. Yan, now an adult, stops and looks at that poor animal. The bird is unconscious. Then Yan turns around and continues on his way. It's a little later now and it's raining heavily. The wolf looks out the window. Then he gets up and goes to the kitchen. He throws some crumbs into a box, giving a little extra food. Yan ends up getting pecked. We find out that he rescued that stubborn bird, which, even trembling, flies up onto the guy. Transformed into a wolf, Yan grabs it, asking irritably if it wants to die. Then he puts it back in the box. He doesn't care much, just waits for the rain to pass so he can make a barbecue. The wolf then leaves. The bird just rests in its box. Maybe I'm a little crazy, but this reminds me a bit of Shu. Yan comes back drinking water, and when he finishes, he notices something and tells the animal to stop staring, and at that moment, the thought of fattening it up a little crosses his mind. He throws in a bit more crumbs, making the bird happy. While he cooks, the little bird watches Yan. It gives a few hops in the air. That way, it manages to reach Yan and land on his shoulder, then deciding it's better to use his hair as a nest. Yan ends up accepting it, planning to let it grow a little more so the taste will be better. With this new companion, he goes on with life. At another moment, Yan is surrounded by another pack seeking revenge for him having eliminated the others and making it clear that it wasn't hard to find him. The dark-haired guy provokes them, saying that's because they're a group of trash. Angry, the leader orders the attack. But before Yan moves, something rushes past him. His new friend is the one who attacks, going straight for the wolf's eye. The guy is impressed because all he did was give it a little food and a bit of sympathy. To him, it's clearly a weak and stupid creature. At that moment, Yan thought only one thing, that it could only be a gift from fate. Back in the present, the wolf smiles, which doesn't go unnoticed by the girl who questions that suspicious smile. He doesn't answer, just gets close to her, surprising her. Even with the girl's protests, Yan picks her up and once again decides to travel across the rooftops, and says to leave the bottles there, stored to get them later, and then explains that he's taking her to train her ability. Zhu accepts that, but questions if there isn't a better means of transportation to use. Seeing the girl's desperation, Yan asks if she doesn't like it, but she can barely see what's ahead. And the wolf enjoys that. Then he decides to grant her wish of putting her on the ground. Dropping the girl from up high, she falls in despair, regretting ever praising him. After enjoying the situation, a little Yan jumps as well, transforming into a wolf just in time to catch the girl, and tells her to stay seated firmly. Shu does what was asked. Then she travels riding on the wolf. Yan goes back to his human form, and now able to speak, Shu asks if the trees are so tall that they reach the clouds and if they're going up there, and the guy says that for the first time she's right. Once again, he tells her to hold tight because he's going to climb. The wolf jumps while the protagonist closes her eyes, feeling the wind hit her face. She has no idea what's happening, but suddenly feels the air unexpectedly cold and very foggy. Maybe they're already passing through the clouds. After a while, Yan tells her to open her eyes and she already feels the weather warmer. She opens her eyes and is enchanted by what she sees. Discovering that above the clouds the sun is rising, gently Yan asks, "Is this the kind of view you would travel to see?" She is surprised and enchanted at the same time that he brought her there just so she could have this view. Taking advantage of the moment, Yan has a request. That she scream when she's in danger, that she call his name, and then he will appear. He says they still have an agreement in progress, so he will keep her alive until it's fulfilled, but he promises nothing after that. Yan sits down and calls the girl to join him, explaining that this forest is the meeting point of his clan where humans normally cannot enter, and also where their energies are more concentrated. Shu feels that her emotional state has been unstable lately, constantly shaken. Meanwhile, the dark-haired guy tells her to stay calm. Because she needs to learn to feel it, the protagonist only notices that he's blushing once again. But she's interested in knowing if he's blushing too, and what's wrong with her lately. What's happening with her feelings that are so messed up? The girl thinks. If her emotions reflect on his body, then can he also feel the beating of her heart? Yan calls her, asking if she's paying attention. Shu isn't. Her mind is taken over by something else. Worried because she wasn't like this before and she doesn't want the wolf to know about her feelings for him. Meanwhile, something flows through the forest like a magical drop. At the very least, she doesn't want him to turn around and look at her. The animals can feel the ground trembling slightly. The clouds split and it's the most beautiful sight to see. Their eyes meet. Shu notices that point of energy between them, which makes her curious. Yan explains that it's her ability and a semi-physical appearance, and asks if she's starting with such a high-level move. The small energy in her hand looks a lot like a crystal, and it surprises her by growing bigger. Shu wants to understand this ability. Yan asks to take a look. Suddenly, a point of light appears on the girl's fingers and takes over her completely. Everything darkens until the light returns, and on the ground there's a child with wings like an angel. The child opens her big blue eyes to the world, closing them again when bird feathers begin to fall on her face. She sits up trying to understand what sound she's hearing, then decides to stand up and look for where it's coming from. Apparently it comes from the tree. There's also something inside, and whatever it is, it's very loud with many people talking at the same time, but she can't understand any of them. Behind the child is Shu, who doesn't understand who this little creature is or why she's there. The little girl turns and smiles at her, extending her tiny hand. Shu asks who she is, but the unknown girl ignores her, holding her hand and taking her somewhere else. Even so, she insists on asking about the place. Getting no answer. The protagonist notices that the two look too much alike. However, the girl doesn't have the same scar as hers. The child points to the hollow inside the tree, where that large crystalline formation is. The sound coming from there is like a heartbeat, making Shu think that this must be the one Yan is looking for. It's a beautiful heart, and she wonders if giving it to the wolf will make everything end. Distracted, Shu touches the ground, but soon pulls her hand back after a different sensation runs through it. It's as if the earth is breathing. This mix of heartbeats and breaths is proof that the world is alive. Suddenly, the crystal cracks, making the protagonist think she's unlucky. The crack keeps growing, and the crystal explodes, sending its pieces flying and almost hitting Shu in the process. She looks at the girl and notices she's crying and doesn't know why. An energy passes through Shu's eyes, making her turn around and notice something behind her. Who is this after all? The unknown figure wears a black cloak, gloves, and a strange mask as if he were death itself, and at his feet there are many people fallen. He approaches the girls, bowing before the little girl, and Shu wonders if his action is to pray, to wish, or even to ask for forgiveness. Whatever is happening there is flooding her body with a suffocating pain. The little girl is also struck by some kind of feeling and cries. Shu is confused, trying to understand whose heart she's feeling. As for the unknown figure, he is trembling as if his body were convulsing. Maybe just like the girl, he might be crying? That makes the protagonist curious to know the cause of their suffering. She has so many questions, after all. Why is she there, witnessing all of this? The same energy running under the skin of those two is also in Shu and in the whole world. Shu hears something, an ethereal voice. A voice so gentle that it draws her in. That voice says, "You're back." And as if it knows her very well, it says it's been a while since it saw her. The voice continues, "Come, my little bird, you will always be part of me." Shu is flooded with words. Her body and mind are separating and she can't control it. She's being pulled into the hollow of the tree and disappearing into it. It's as if her pieces are breaking apart into small birds flying away. Suddenly, something cracks. Its pieces begin to fall slowly. And from there, a hand comes out and grabs her. It's Yan, and she didn't even need to call him for him to appear. The wolf shouts her name, asking her to wake up. A voice asks everyone to go back, and calls for Shooting, who finally wakes up. The protagonist looks back, wondering if it was her who called her. The little girl makes a gesture as if asking to keep the secret between the two of them. Awake in the real world, Shu can feel her body slowly returning. To be honest, being in that place had only been making her afraid, but at the same time, she felt peace and vitality. In that strange world, she could feel everything, like the leaves swaying gently and the birds flapping softly. She also felt the movement of life inside herself. It was a strange and new experience. For a moment, she wasn't herself, but everything that was alive. Realizing she's finally conscious, Yan says her ability is space, which clearly leaves her completely confused. Then he explains that she created her own dimension, and now we have our Wanda Maximoff. But getting back to the story, Shu is surprised that she did that while they were watching the sunrise. Yan now understands that's why the fragment reacted to the bandage, but not to her. An object that comes into contact with the girl naturally carries her energy, and that's how the fragment felt it once it left her, while Shu's own energy was blocked by her space. Curious, the dark-haired guy asks what she saw in that world. Now he can understand why she was chosen and says they need to find the heart that must be inside that created space. The thing is that it has already been found, and Shu wonders if she should tell him. However, the little girl asked her to keep it secret, which makes her think that means Yan might hurt her. Suddenly, she's surprised by the wolf covering her mouth, asking if she knows, saying that her eyes start moving quickly every time she's up to something, and once again demands that she say exactly what she saw. Yan is scary, demanding that the truth be told. Otherwise, there will be consequences for lying. The protagonist promised she would help him, but she's conflicted because that little girl told her to stay quiet, and now she doesn't know what to do. At the same time, she doesn't want to lie to Yan, but she also wants that child to be safe. There's only one way to escape this conflict. She chooses to avoid the choice by pretending to faint. Yan catches the girl before she hits the ground and asks if this is really serious. The guy finds it very suspicious that this suddenly happens right now. He pokes her to see if she reacts, and Shu tries to control herself, turning red like an apple. She appears at that moment, wanting to know what's happening because the veins of the earth are trembling nonstop and are very unstable. Shu keeps pretending, but still needs to stay strong since she's feeling tingling from the tickling. The older sister explains that this disturbance irritated the other side and that Chun is already on his way. Yan just drops the news that the girl simply opened a space, and that the thing they need should be inside her. Impressed, the woman questions if it's really that simple. The guy immediately denies it, saying that Shu almost disappeared earlier, and besides that, he has no idea what triggered her ability, so they'll need to wait for her to wake up to know. Not to mention that the girl's body is warm, suspecting it might be a fever, and he mocks that humans are so fragile. She says nothing. Anyway, her brother just goes on his way to carry Shu. But before he disappears from her sight completely, she asks if he isn't getting too close. Not understanding, he stops and asks about what. Then she makes it clear she means the distance between the two of them. Shu hears everything, and it takes a lot of strength to stay still. Back to the siblings, Yan asks if he should make the girl go back alone, but that's not what she means. She means that he used his ability too much, and that the wound on his body probably got worse, and asks if he isn't doing too much for this child. After all, using his ability too much will only bring a tragic end, asking him to remember the difference between them and humans. But Yan knows what he's doing. All of this is to get the heart no matter what, and he's protecting the girl because they need her. And once the mission is fulfilled, it's over. Yan leaves his sister behind, who finds him a bit cruel with all that indifference. She could have believed that if she didn't know him well, so she just hopes he doesn't repeat past mistakes, because they'll have to leave at some point. It's already late afternoon, and they're back at the ruins. Someone walks and bends down to pick something up. It's a cell phone with the screen badly cracked, connected to a cable. The video is played, where Yan is seen running from those creatures, and then transforming into a giant black wolf. An adult Shu Ting is distracted at the airport, looking absent-mindedly at her tablet while walking to her gate. Her face is more mature and serious, and the glasses only make her more attractive. A brooch decorates her blouse. As if someone silently called her, the woman lifts her gaze. It's Yan walking toward her. The guy keeps that same smile and is also more charming, wearing different clothes, more serious like a businessman. With a smile, Shu runs to him. She throws herself into his arms as if they haven't seen each other in a long time. And their eyes meet tenderly. But it turns out it was all just a dream, and the girl is in her bed back at 17 years old. She sits on the bed angry and very red. not understanding why she had that kind of dream, and even questions a little if there's some kind of feeling going on between them. Well, at least if she feels something. Not to mention whether something like that is even okay. After all, they're not the same species. Shu even thinks it might just be fear, gratitude, or if she sees him as family. But deep down, she knows the feeling in her heart isn't that. And she already knows the answer she's not willing to admit, almost letting his name slip softly from her lips. And he came as promised. Shu gets a huge scare and is worried at the same time that the dark-haired guy was there the whole time. Without ceremony, Yan asks if she's in love. Obviously, the girl doesn't answer. And the wolf continues saying that while she was sleeping, she kept touching him to feel him, and her little face got all red, shamelessly asking if she was dreaming about him. Shu denies it, but she can't even lie about what she was dreaming. Stopping the teasing, Yan says her love life isn't important and wants to go back to the main topic, asking what she saw in the space and how exactly she triggered it, telling her to just say the important parts. Zhu begins her account saying she saw a tree with a hollow part from which threads came out that turned into animals, and then there was a mist from which 2 people appeared. As for opening the space, she reveals that when he brought her to see the sunrise, she felt very happy, something she never had in her life. Unfortunately, the girl can't tell the most important parts, believing she must be able to open that again, and when she sees that child, she'll make sure to ask her everything, and when everything is clear, then she'll tell him. That's all he needs to hear. Yan says that every day after class, they'll go to that place to learn her ability, which makes the girl question if there's still something to learn. Yan answers the most obvious thing. Of course there is. Did you think something like that would be so simple? Anyway, there's nothing more to do and the wolf is already leaving. But before going, he makes it clear that her private life is her private matter. Shu doesn't even let him finish, making it clear that it won't affect their relationship, and that's all Yan wanted to hear. He leaves, leaving the protagonist with the feeling that he only sees her as someone useful for his plans. The girl is in panic over this love. This unrequited love. Besides blaming herself even though she didn't do anything wrong, well, none of that matters since he doesn't care at all. Suddenly, Shu is surprised once again by his call. Yan is back, curious to know what the guy she likes is like, with the intention of observing him as a duty of a family member. Zhu is quite surprised that he really wants to know. But of course, she'll deny that she likes anyone. Only Yan doesn't intend to give up on that since the girl not only touched him, but also hugged him, and even teases asking if she didn't notice, and that he should have used that device humans call a cell phone and taken a picture. Getting very close, he asks why she's lying. After all, how could he not notice something like that when they're together all the time? At this point, the girl is dizzy from so many questions, but Yan keeps wanting to know if it's the boy who sits in front of her or to her right, and Shu just wants the space to appear again so she can hide inside it and escape. In the end, Shu says it's a friend she used to be very close to, who, however, left when they were very young. Obviously, it's a lie since she doesn't know what to say. Yan listens to everything silently and attentively, then smiles as if a diabolical plan had crossed his mind. He just replies, "A very long-lasting affection." Shu stays silent. That was all the wolf needed to hear, and then he goes to the window reminding her about after class. But before he leaves, Shu grabs him. He asks what she wants. The protagonist asks about him, if she can at least ask, already knowing what the question is about. Yan has no problem saying it. With a mocking smile, he says he's not in love with a gege, similar to Appa. Anyway, Shu realizes he avoided the question and becomes even more curious about who might be in his heart. Well, if he even has one. The next day arrives. In the classroom, someone is introducing themselves as the representative of the school's temporary event club, inviting everyone to join in preparing for the anniversary week. But Shu isn't interested since she's hiding, watching Yan steal the spotlight and wanting to know if he's fixing something outside. She smiles, noticing that he's making a grumpy face and even so manages to be so popular. Suddenly, she notices his mouth moving as if he's saying something. Slowly, so she can understand, Yan asks, "Why are you smiling?" That makes the girl's heart race and the beat so loud that she can't hear the world around her. Then someone calls her. A tall, platinum-haired guy calls her Mei Mei, something like little sister even though they're not family, and even she is shocked that she actually has a gege. But the truth is, she doesn't have one and doesn't even remember if he's someone she knows. He surprises her again by apologizing. The guy says it's not appropriate to call her that now that they're older. That doesn't go unnoticed by the classmates, and the boy who sits in front of her asks if Shuting has an older brother. The platinum-haired one explains that they were neighbors when they were kids until he had to move away, and of course the wolf is listening to everything. The stranger asks if she remembers, but Shu's memory is still working on it, feeling like there's only fog when she tries to search for it. Something catches the newcomer's attention. He waves to someone outside. Immediately, Shu turns to see who it is. It's just Yan with an intrigued look. But when he notices Shu, he immediately signals asking if it's him she's in love with. Yan stands up and just that draws everyone's attention. Shu gets curious to know if there was some misunderstanding. The platinum-haired guy asks if the two know each other. Having to lift her head to talk to someone so tall, Shu explains that she was saved by the guy some time ago when she almost fell from the school wall. Hee-Xian looks a little uneasy while listening to that, and Geg tells the girl to be more careful and after handing over the schedule says to meet later. The guy thanks everyone who is participating and asks them to find him in room 7 if they have any questions. The day flies by and soon it's time for Shu to leave. She climbs up because she needs to meet Yan somewhere behind the school. But she's surprised by someone shouting that she's in danger. Shu stumbles and leaves her Gege in panic. Luckily, the guy grabs her by the leg. The platinum-haired one turns his face away, realizing it's not an appropriate moment to look, and after apologizing, asks if she's okay. But without worry, she lifts her skirt, showing she's wearing shorts underneath. Gege goes straight to the point and explains he's there to return her phone. He shows it and asks if it's really hers, just to make sure. Gege says he found it at the ruins, and Shu had no idea she had lost it. At least she won't need a new one. He explains that he had to look through the names to find the owner and saw Uncle saved as dad, and thinking it was a coincidence, realized it was Shu, then says, "I found something you lost again." That awakens something in Shu. Those words she has heard before, and now they're all in her mind. She lost something, and it was given back to her because everything he has is hers. Since the person he likes the most forever is her, and his name is Chi Wen Chu. A memory invades her. The boy holds a ball with the protagonist's name that she supposedly lost again. He cries while offering it. But Shu Ting thinks she shouldn't accept it. And that's what she does. She rejects the ball. An older boy appears, insulting the two of them. He says Yuan lost his ball again, and even mocks him, asking how he manages to do that every time. The platinum-haired boy just holds back his tears while staring. The bigger boy says if his body is weak, he should stay home because playing with him isn't fun, and even tries to insult Shu. But the other, even though he tolerates being called that, doesn't allow him to be mean to his Mei. He gets pushed by the bigger boy, who tells them to stop calling each other that since they're not relatives, and provokes, saying he can't protect anyone with a skinny and short body, and proposes that if he gets his allowance, he'll protect both of them in exchange. Shu surprises the boys by laughing and says the boy will have a little sister soon, and because of the pregnancy, the woman hasn't picked him up from school. Shu says, "Your parents don't want you anymore." That makes the brat go into shock and cry. Away from the commotion, the girl comforts Yuan, who is still crying a lot. With a shout, the boy reveals he's moving away the next day. Instead of being sad about his departure, Shu realizes what she did was pointless since she didn't expect that. Yuan gives her some money that he thinks is the protection fee that Brat demanded. Her Gege hugs her, saying she can take everything he has because the person he likes the most is her. And so Shu finally remembers the sick and crying boy who moved away and now has a healthy body. Yuan thanks her for helping him in that fight, and it's something he will always remember. She thanks him for the phone too, but at the moment she can't stay longer since she has an appointment with Yan. Originally, the platinum-haired guy intended to invite her to eat together, but will have to leave the conversation for another day and ends up worrying about the girl's method of escaping. So Shu Ting leaves for her appointment, and very happy because she was worried it would take a while to save money for a new phone. But now she needs to check if she didn't lose anything because of the fall. While scrolling, she finds something that makes her eyes widen. It's the videos from that day, and she hopes Yuanchu Gege didn't look at them. Remembering the boy from the past, she trusts that he didn't do that. Shu presses play on the video. After finishing watching the content, she feels relieved that nothing important was recorded and that the camera app was probably accessed from the lock screen, so there's no need to get paranoid. But what Shu doesn't know is that at this moment she's being watched. Yuanchu seems to know her secret. Could he be someone trustworthy? Whatever he intends to do, he doesn't seem very satisfied. He waits for the girl to leave. Then he picks up his phone. In the photo app, besides a private picture of Shu, there's also the video captured of Yan transforming. They were taken from the girl's phone, and Yan regrets having done that. Being a total weirdo, he smells his hand where he touched the protagonists. He remembers once again what he said in the past about being the person he likes the most. It wasn't just a childish joke. For him, those feelings last much longer than one might imagine. Meanwhile, Shu walks through the forest calling for the wolf, looking around and only hearing the rustling of the trees. Even already knowing the place very well, it still gives her chills, especially remembering that time when she found the body on the ground in a Red Sea. There's only one thing to do. Shu takes some papers out of her bag, and as expected, she can't see the letters very well. But at least there's only a bit of homework left, and she can finish it now, and with that, sleep well at night. Whenever the sun sets, she gets sleepy. The girl starts doing her homework. Always distracted, she doesn't even notice she's being watched. Then something dark is falling. But it's too late to do anything. Yan's jacket knocks her to the ground without knowing what's happening. Even without seeing anything, she throws her pen, hitting Yan straight on the head, who comments about her being scared. After that, he picks up the pen. Still unable to see Shu, at least recognizes the voice, taking the coat off her and facing the wolf. The guy smiles, saying that the quail is quite brave, and asks if she really ended up doing homework in a place like this. Shu knows he's right. At the beginning, she was really scared, especially when she remembered what happened. Every detail of that day flooded her memories in red waves. But then when she remembered him, she wasn't scared anymore. The protagonist says it's because she knew he was nearby, and as promised, she knew that if she called him, he would appear. Hearing that Yan's reaction is to push his coat even more onto her, thinking the girl is really a fool. Yan even jokes that she would help her kidnapper count the ransom money, which she denies. Shu tries to free herself from her prison, but ends up giving up after so much effort. The wolf is too strong to go against. Shu pushed as much as she could, but he didn't even move. And now Yan's scent is everywhere. What surprises her is that he doesn't smell like a dog. Suddenly, Yan releases her while saying she shouldn't trust them, which obviously leaves the girl confused. Even so, she dares to ask if she shouldn't do that even with him. Smiling, Yan confirms. Immediately, a doubt enters Shu's mind. Will he betray her? Which doesn't make much sense, because if he plans to do that, why would he warn her? For some reason, when those words were said, the protagonist couldn't understand his expression at all. Not even when he teases her does he stop giving that crooked little smile. But this isn't the case. Yan doesn't even leave room, saying not to waste time with questions like that. All that's left is to accept it, so changing the subject. Shu hands back the coat that for a while was her prison, and even takes the chance to ask if he only wears that one, discovering that the wolf has a wardrobe, leaving her surprised that people like that really exist. Soon, Yan ends this new discussion and makes a move to carry her, but Shu asks him to wait, wanting to know if just like Yan can fly around, it's possible for her to do the same. If she can do that, she won't need to worry about him discovering some things she can't control. The guy's answer is simple. If you can, I won't be against it. Yan has a plan for the training. They'll have to cross through the city forest and the prairie, and soon they'll reach the objective. The wolf keeps his eyes fixed on the girl, who seriously thinks about the longest walk of her life, and then gives that crooked, teasing smile. Yan surprises her by picking her up in his arms, and says that maybe in the future she can do that, but not right now. In a scene that really looks like the first Twilight movie, but with a different element, this time it's the wolf carrying someone through the forest. He asks how she still hasn't gotten used to it. But for Shu, that's not the problem there. And once again, her feelings get all messed up, causing consequences for Yan. To avoid him turning into a big bouquet, the girl tries to pull the flower off his head, which she manages to do easily. She just doesn't manage to stop the wolf from shivering because of it, and also can't avoid him actually turning into a human bouquet. Forcing a smile, Yan asks what she's thinking about. The two stare at each other, with the protagonist visibly blushing. Her expression doesn't go unnoticed by him. Yan continues on his way, but doesn't stop teasing the girl as he laughs and says he knows what this is called. Then he says, "It's puberty," making her feel ridiculous at that moment. Even so, the wolf doesn't stop, listing the symptoms like being emotionally unstable, thinking about strange things, and trying to hide it but failing since her feelings are all disorganized. He asks if she's looking for a mate. Yan questions why she's blushing while looking at him when she likes Yuan-Chu Gege, and Shu quickly denies it, finally understanding what the misunderstanding was. But deep down, the girl has been feeling a little discouraged about the problem she's been struggling with while he talks about it so casually as if he just mentioned something ordinary. Saying and doing everything so easily without caring about anything except the heart he's looking for. Yan is calmly coming down from the trees when suddenly the girl asks if instead of being her Geje, it's actually him. Then the two start falling, and quickly Shu fixes this mess, saying it's just a joke. Life goes on and another day arrives. In the security room, a very good smell attracts Chun, who shamelessly takes a big bite of the food. The wolf, now with a full belly, goes looking for his older brother so that together they can find their older sister and after that take a good nap. Chun arrives at the library. Through the window, he calls his older brother. Yan immediately tells him to be quiet and asks if he's bored and what he's doing there. But the wolf just freezes, seeing the other reading. Yan is reading a guide about puberty and throws another one at Chun's face. He goes straight to the point, wanting to know what the problem is. The younger one is there to say that the other side has been extremely calm recently. Which is a very strange fact. Nothing is happening, it's not normal. Yan tells him to inform Shi about it. Chun leaves, leaving his brother worried behind. Through the window, the dark-haired one watches Shu participating in physical education class. The students' training ends and they're released to enjoy their free time. The teacher takes the chance to warn them that registration for the school anniversary event will end the next day. After that, they are officially dismissed. Shu is still a little disturbed about what she said to Yan last night. She tries something, closing her eyes and feeling, as she has been taught in her training, which consists of feeling her connection with the world and focusing that energy on the tip of her fingers. While she was doing that, Yan guided her, asking her to reproduce the attempt from that day, explaining that it seems necessary to have an emotional trigger source to open the space. He remembers that the girl said she felt very happy at that moment, which she agrees with without giving many details. Due to her emotional state, Yan recommends not taking the final step unless he's with her to avoid another disaster, and says she needs to master opening the space safely before they enter it. And that's why now, during this free time, she tries to do everything he said. Safety comes first. But doing that at school doesn't avoid the stares. One of the girls comments that she's doing something weird again, even with another defending that she's a good person, having even received a pennant for it. Shu remembers that one of the lessons is to thank nature, and that makes the girls run away terrified. The protagonist stands up because, as previously explained by Yan, the energy in this place isn't the same as on the mountain. Then she notices something. By coincidence, she's in front of the wolf's resting area, remembering that she had been there only once. And that day, she didn't have the chance to look properly. But now she can see that it's surprisingly clean, which she finds strange since Yan entered her life like a gust of wind. While touching each part of that place, the girl reflects that the strange thing is that she just kept following his rhythm, admitting to herself that she really likes his presence, and then she remembers what she said. The dark-haired one didn't even react. Meanwhile, Yan walks through the corridors as always, being popular and drawing attention from everyone around. He heads toward his classroom, soon noticing something different. Through the door window, he comes across the scene of Shu leaning over the window. She's still calmly touching the desk, until she finally opens her eyes. Shu finally leaves for her class. Yan doesn't have the courage to enter the classroom. In this downcast moment, he notices his shoelace is untied, and he bends down to tie it. It's at that moment that he thinks about that question. At that moment, Yan could only look at her but froze, unable to say anything. He still can't believe it. This girl's brain really works differently. A girl walks distracted in his direction, noticing his presence right away. And it's exactly him she wants to talk to, and she says that Professor Liu asked to bring the microphone. But Yan can only pay attention to the first few sentences because something outside catches his attention. Someone drops an object from the top floor of the building. Leaving the boys in panic about someone being below and realizing it's Shu Ting, they shout for the girl to move. But she doesn't hear, and it might be too late to get out of the way. Yan notices the danger, opening the door and running in an abnormal way. The girl is still explaining about fixing the microphone. When she realizes it, the dark-haired one has already disappeared, apparently having gone out the window. He sees a commotion. The students are gathered, worried about taking the injured person to the infirmary. Nothing happened to Shu because her Gege protected her. Even so, there's concern in her eyes as she looks at the boy. Yuan asks her not to worry because he's fine. Other people gather while the one responsible for the accident apologizes, assuring that he didn't mean to drop it. But his apology doesn't stop an argument from breaking out among the others about him not holding it properly, and the boy tries to justify, saying he doesn't know how it happened, and it was as if someone invisible had pulled it from his hand. Yan pays attention to those words. The irritated girl tells him not to make excuses, obviously not believing any of it. But Yan starts to suspect it. Could someone really have caused that on purpose? The argument ends and everyone is worried about Yuan in case he has a concussion or something like that. Meanwhile, the wolf keeps the suspicion. Unlike the teenagers, he took it seriously no matter how crazy it might sound. Shu helps her Gege to the infirmary, asking questions, wanting to know if he's dizzy or anything else. Yuan thanks his Mei Mei, but the girl says she's the one who should be doing that since he saved her from getting hurt. The wolf watches him with a bored look, thinking about how he came as fast as he could and finds it strange that the other got there first, wondering if he was nearby when everything happened. The two are very close and Shu holds him to keep him nearby. It doesn't go unnoticed by the dark-haired one's gaze. Shu is still worried that he might be in pain, but Yuan assures her it's not as bad as she thinks. But that doesn't calm her. The girl walks very fast, anxious to hurry, and asking him to say immediately if he needs to go to the hospital. She's so distressed and distracted that she ends up bumping into someone. Shu looks at who's in front of her, discovering it's Yan, who once again appeared out of nowhere. But thinking about it, maybe she called him without realizing. The girl is pulled out of her thoughts. Yan kindly offers to take Yuan to the infirmary, and the platinum-haired boy asks if he's the person who helped his Mei Mei before. The wolf says he's surprised he remembers since they only saw each other once. He says he remembered because Shu told him about his help and thanks him for it too. At that moment, the girl just watches, noticing that, as expected, her Gegja remains attentive, while Yan always wants to make it clear that he's different from humans, so she didn't expect him to get involved in this situation. But as they say, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Deep down, he's a good person. Yan suddenly bends down, leaving everyone confused and Shu completely shocked. Because she understands that it's what he always does when he's going to carry her. Is he going to dare to do that in front of everyone? It's just a habit, however, that didn't stop the girl from reacting badly to it, leaving Yuan worried. Yan bends down to tie his shoelace, and Zhu pretends to stretch while everyone around is confused about what just happened. At the infirmary, Yuan gets scolded for being reckless. After all, if it had been closer, he would have needed stitches. The nurse tells him to stay there for a few minutes, and if he doesn't feel dizzy or nauseous, then he can go back to class. Taking advantage of Yan being there, the woman asks him to check the storage fridge since she felt something strange when she went to get the medicine, as if it wasn't cold like it usually is. As he leaves the room, the wolf can hear Shu asking her Gege how he feels and telling him to say immediately if anything feels strange. Before closing the door, he hears something that catches his attention. Yuan Chu says, "Shuting, finally, you're talking to me," which doesn't make much sense to the girl since they talked earlier. He says it was just something quick, and soon they had to say goodbye. And it happened more than once. Remembering those occasions, the girl understands that he's right. Yuan Chu says he came back recently, and because of that, he still doesn't have many friends, and says he hopes the two of them can start talking again, otherwise he'll end up alone. For someone passing by, at least, it wasn't hard to touch Shuting with the fact of having a friend. Gege asks several questions about the school, like which cafeteria has the best food, and talks about the problems he faces, like getting lost in the lab building, and because of that, he'll need help. Yan, who follows the nurse, keeps his ears sharp. He even hears them exchanging contacts. Noticing that strangely, the newcomer said everything Shu wanted to hear. On the way, they are stopped by a student, who received the mission of inserting the names from previous years into the records, and since it's a lot of work, wants someone else to help. The nurse doesn't know what to do since the ones who knew how to handle it already graduated. An idea crosses Yan's mind, so he calls the girl. But anyone who thinks the boy volunteered to help is mistaken. Shu at the moment doesn't understand why she was taken out of the infirmary to help with that, and brought there for some reason right when her Gege had something else to say. That alone is strange since no one ever asks her for anything. The girl draws Shu's attention first, thanking her for agreeing to help. They have a lot to do, and because of that, they'll have to split it after explaining how things should be done. For some reason, the protagonist is very happy. Aside from almost getting hit on the head, everything else is going well that day. She hears whistling. Looking out the window, she notices Yan passing by. Impressing the girl with his dedication, it's as if he feels unexpectedly human, not to mention in a good mood. Meanwhile, Yuan-Chu is still in the infirmary. A sound from outside is heard. Then a crow enters the room. Without meaning to, it bumps into the cup, and it's inevitable that it falls. Unless a miracle happened. Like Shu somehow magically pulling it into her hand, he says it's not common for the bird to miss its landing. The platinum-haired boy thanks it for sending the video, aware that it must have been tiring. He invites the crow to buy a frame after all it was responsible for breaking it. After classes, Shu hurries running through the hallways, carrying a bunch of papers that she needs to return to Lin in the health room on the 3rd floor. She heads toward the place, until she stops when she hears someone talking about giving something to Yan. It's a bunch of snacks that the friend says he probably won't like since he's not like the boys in their class, but the other doesn't care since she prefers more mature guys. Not to mention they don't even know how old Yan is. At least Shu knows, they can't be sure about that. But even she doesn't have an answer for that, or even for other questions like if he grew up happy with his siblings, what he eats, or even if he's going to eat those snacks. Even if it sounds strange, she wants to know more about him because that's how people get closer. But it's impossible to ignore that Yan seems to create a distance between others, and her not too far, but not too close either. The girls keep talking about how scary he is, that his gaze is almost like a wild animal looking at its prey. However, that one time when he defended Shuting, his gaze wasn't scary at all. Hearing that and thinking she might be a little different from everyone else regarding how Yan behaves makes her heart jump with joy. Outside, she takes the chance to peek into the break room and discovers several snacks on the table. Having followed those girls, she finds it strange that there's more stuff than what she was carrying. There's even a very expensive dessert that Shu always wanted to try. Yan shows up right by her ear and whispers, "Are you interested?" Shu immediately jumps back, asking him not to talk near her ear. The wolf keeps teasing, getting closer and asking if by any chance he's seeing drool coming from her. Shu wipes her face, and he smiles because of that. Yan lets her take all the snacks. She finds out that it's very common for things like that to show up on his desk, and that the dark-haired one really is very popular. There are more things in the drawer, and that's why his desk always looks so clean before, since he keeps everything stored. Taking advantage of that, Yan asks why she came to look at his desk earlier. That's when Shu realizes he saw everything. Blushing, she lowers her gaze and explains that she was passing by when she remembered he worked there, so she got curious and decided to take a peek. She's afraid of what the boy might see. So she lies, saying she was curious to know if Yan eats dog snacks, and runs away despite his protests. After that incident, they are in the forest for another day of training. Shu isn't very willing, yawning and drawing Yan's attention. He takes a small box of chewing gum out of his pocket, throwing it to the girl and asking her to focus. Shu tries it and feels a peach and plum blossom fragrance. The flavor is strong even after chewing for a while, and besides being refreshing, it's like chewing on spring. She then offers some to Yan so they can taste spring together. Taking advantage of the break, Shu asks Yan questions like why he gets mad about being called a dog when it's such a cute animal, and he shoots back saying monkeys are cute too, and that she should think about becoming one. When she asks about his age, the wolf says he didn't bring her there to chat. Meanwhile, a storm starts rolling in over the prairie peak. The girl still doesn't give up on wanting to know his age. Her weapon is words, and she asks, "Shouldn't you be my mentor? Then you should teach me about yourself." Shu looks away, embarrassed, and fixes her question, saying she wants to know about his species. Yan shocks her by saying he's around 300 years old. He doesn't understand why she's surprised, since she knows they're not the same species. Zhu knows he's right, and also believes it's not a big deal, and that she's prepared for it. One thing to think about is that 300 years is enough to consider something ancient. Then a curiosity appears. How does he keep that appearance? Yan teases her by pushing her head and asking why she needs to know, and that she's too young to worry about that. While doing that, Yan thinks about something. Doing this to her is like petting a quail. Now he understands why humans like doing that to cats and dogs. Yan surprises her by answering that it's because he doesn't have a heart. After all, appearance is just a form of existence. The wolf explains that when they reach adulthood and have all their abilities, they can keep the same appearance forever, just as they can change it. Looking older is easier, but consumes more energy, so the best choice is to stay the way they look when they reach adulthood. A doubt pops into Shu's mind. Since he can choose his own avatar, Is that why he wasn't naked when he turned into human form? A very bold and articulated question. Now she wants to know about the pointed ears he had the day she saw him in the forest. Explaining that they have sharper senses than humans as well as stronger bodies than a normal animal. So there's a difference between their species and the animals people are used to. For example, they have much better smell, hearing and night vision than humans, and a body stronger and more flexible than an animal. Shu thinks that's the coolest thing ever, and asks if she can do it too. Yan tells her to keep dreaming after all. Besides them, legends say the only other beings who can do that are gods, and asks if she thinks she's one, and she doesn't rule out the possibility. The wolf tells her to stop dreaming because her energy is human. She doesn't give up, and noticing Yan has never seen a god, asks how he would know if a god's energy and a human's would be different. And what if they're the same? Leaving the dark-haired boy without answers for a few seconds. He tells her not to worry about a thief. And besides, it was because of that statue that they got involved, and that the focus right now is mastering her ability. Yan even guarantees they can talk after the space is opened safely. After some time meditating, Yan notices that same energy flowing between Shu's fingers, praising her for the good job and asking her to take a look. Shu hadn't noticed before, but now she's enchanted by the little sparkles in her hand, and this one is more stable than the other attempts. The protagonist had never looked closely before, but in that energy line, there are many little birds. She also feels her fingertips tingling, just like her heart. She finally understands which energy the wolf means. It's the same feeling she has with those birds and that child. So she has many questions about what those things are, and if they're related. Shu is so lost and enchanted by it, Yan keeps guiding her, telling her to focus on feeling the energy and let it become part of herself. He asks her to manipulate the size, like that time. Yan tells her to focus on doing it. He gets closer and says, "No matter where you go, I'll bring you back," giving her confidence not to fear anything because the more relaxed she is, the safer she'll be, and encourages her to think about something she wants. Then asks if there's something she desires. Hearing that, Shu looks away. Even though there is, she thinks about something. Then surprises him by asking if she can be a little selfish. This time, Shu is the one who gets closer and says that if she succeeds, they'll go for a walk together. Just the two of them. The girl explains better, saying he's always encouraging her with her abilities, and she hasn't even had time to collect bottles recently. Yan looks suspicious that she wants his help to collect them. Leaving Shu a little disappointed that's what he understood from her words, it's not like the protagonist made her real intention very clear either. It starts to rain, and Yan thinks it's the perfect moment to end the training and tells her to bring an umbrella next time. As usual, he carries her, making the girl call him insane. After all, it seems like the word rest doesn't exist in his dictionary. Yan jumps between the trees. Meanwhile, Shu notices something, asking what those glowing dots are. They're magical beings, just like him. The boy explains that those creatures attach themselves to other creatures, imitating their way of life, and they like to come out when it rains. Shu is enchanted watching the scene of the beings and animals jumping together softly in the air like fairies. But a warning, she must never touch them. Yan explains better that each being has a different way of living, and some of them are fatal to her. The wolf keeps jumping between the trees. But the conversation isn't over, and now Shu has several doubts. Can they turn into humans? Can she keep one as a pet? Are they like jelly? And she even asks him to catch one so she can touch it even after the warning. Yan says he can't tell if she has a strange personality or just doesn't take his words seriously, and that it's been like that the whole time with her not having any desire to escape. She gets scared but soon accepts the situation and faces it no matter what happens. Hearing that makes her a little shy, but gathering courage, Shu says that no matter what happens, instead of being afraid, she prefers to do something about it and maybe find something interesting. In the middle of the rain, she looks at him and asks if he hasn't already found something like that, just like the sunrise that day, revealing it's something she'll remember for a long time. Yan says nothing, as if there's a knot in his throat. His hand hesitates as it slides down to the protagonist's waist. It's just a new way of carrying her, and he decides it'll be like this from now on. Finally, at his house, the news he gave shook everyone, even making the older sister spit water on Chun. For she, the proposal is definitely a date, and she asks if he agreed to it. But Yan shocks them again, saying he accepted. The woman asks if they're having fun playing house, and if they've already defined their roles in it, She thinks it would have been better to tie the girl up as soon as something went wrong, because forcing her would be safer than what he's doing. Annoyed, she asks if her brother is even listening. Yan seems unconcerned while taking off his shirt. The only thing he asks is, tie her up and force her to do it. She doesn't care about the methods. After all, he has no idea about the situation they're in. In the middle of this serious discussion, Chun interrupts to talk about the flowers that usually grow on Yan's head, huge bouquets and sometimes with vines and branches. Getting kicked while the two say to each other, "Your little brother." Chun shrinks himself, deciding it's the best time to go patrol. But back to the discussion. Very irritated, she says she's waiting for the day Shu confesses and makes it clear that no relationship between them and humans can end well, and also reminds him it's very unusual for him to accept that date. For Yan, it's not about that. He only accepted because he's trying to make the girl happy. He has a 3-day deadline for her to create the space, and then he'll agree. Besides, he knows that the happier Shu is, the greater the chances. Then he asks his sister to stop worrying so much. She gives her brother a long look, then throws a pillow at him, accusing him of being so cunning even for their species, reminding him that when they were kids, it was very hard to stabilize their abilities in such a short time, and asks how he's lived for 300 years and still can't see that Shu likes him. The dark-haired boy justifies that the girl never had a close family member before, making her easily dependent on others. He was ready to use the argument that she should spend more time with people her age. Until he falls silent, remembering that moment between Shu and Yuan in the infirmary. With little enthusiasm, Yan continues, saying that after they leave, it won't take long for the girl to forget them, and then she'll have friends and a boyfriend, with a job she loves and the family she always wanted. She'll be like everyone else in this world and live in peace until the end of her life, while for him it's just something temporary in his long life. After all, how could he be so inattentive? There's nothing more to say, ending the conversation with Yan leaving the house. But she knows that human emotions are complex and a heart can't be easily controlled. Their hearts burn with passion. And in those conditions, they stop following the normal rhythm to match the emotion of looking at the loved person, beating fast when they get excited and in some extreme cases, maybe even stopping from sadness. So can he really guarantee they'll never be moved by each other? Back at school, Shu hands over the last ball used in physical education class. Her kind work is appreciated since she helped collect them all quickly. The woman says goodbye to her. Taking advantage of still having free time, Shu thinks about looking for a quiet place to practice since the little time she has after school won't be enough. The problem is there are many people on the field. All the classrooms have windows, making it very likely that the hallway monitor would see her. Distracted thinking about a good place, Shu doesn't even notice the ball coming in her direction. But just in time, without even realizing it, she manages to dodge and even gets the idea of going to the bathroom. It's a perfect place, and it even has stalls. The ball ends up hitting another student. On the field, Hishan watches her, thinking that the girl has always been like this, never knowing if she's doing things on purpose or by accident. All she wants to know is what kind of person Shu is. Back to the protagonist, her concern is the 3-day deadline she received to open the portal. If only she could remember how she managed to do it that time. She looks at her hands, then closes her eyes, remembering that she felt her heart pound as if she had been struck by a kind of joy, the kind you feel when expectations are met, while hers have always failed. We are taken to one of her childhood memories when she was hurt on the face, and even with the excuse that children always get hurt, someone says that it was because she stole. The boys say she stuttered when they asked, which is a clear sign that she must have felt guilty and lied. But the older woman reminds them that her belongings were found in the lost and found, and tells them to behave because the orphanage director has important guests arriving. Sitting and swallowed by her own silence, later that same day, she overheard the conversation about someone wanting her, even knowing that she couldn't speak very well, and that her reactions and thoughts are slower than other children's. But the person surprises her by saying he likes her. Her eyes shine at that. Curious, she stands up to find out who is the person who said that. A man says, very excited, that there's nothing wrong with her personality, assuring that a loving family can change things, especially since she's so young. He guarantees they can give that to the girl and also says he found her very pretty and truly liked her. Her heart began to warm at the idea of having a family. Taken to that beautiful mansion, even though she was so small, she thought some god had answered her expectations. A beautiful house with a beautiful yard and garden. Then she was shown her room. Her heart was beating so fast. The door was opened, revealing only a simple bed there. Even so, it was the most beautiful thing in her entire life. Enchanted little Shu thanks him and is left there so that later they could talk about some things. Her little fingers are hurt, but she finally finished her work. Very proud, she looks enchanted at the little bird she made. It's a thank you gift for that man, and she's so excited to give it to him. As she runs toward him, she wonders if she should call him Dad, but either way, she doesn't feel confident enough to say that word yet. Zhu opens the door from where she heard his voice. Inside, there's a press conference happening about how the man's factory baby snacks contain illegal ingredients, but he takes responsibility with a speech saying he loves children. Taking advantage of Shu being there, he presents her to the public. With that scandal now, we can understand his intentions. The cameras are now turned toward her, and everyone wants to know what she thinks of Mr. Zhu. But the words are stuck in her throat and she can't say anything. Suddenly, her wrist is grabbed tightly. She is forced to tell all those cameras pointed at her face how well Zhu treats her. From that day until the end, the protagonist couldn't say absolutely anything. Clearly drunk, the irritated man shouts, asking why she simply didn't say yes. Shu could only apologize. She remembers that day well. She no longer had a father when the mask was removed by the alcohol, and her expectations gave no results. Time passes, and in the middle of the night, the girl couldn't sleep. She was so happy that she got carried away. During that time, she tried to run away once, but didn't realize that adults don't sleep at night. On the second attempt, she wanted to find someone to help her call the police. Zhu stopped her, asking her to behave because she was scaring the woman and her baby. He even took the opportunity to complain, saying being a father is very hard, and that he feels very incompetent for not being able to make this child happy. Even being small, Shu thinks the man should be an actor for pretending so well. But this time she wants to try one more time. Shu is ready to run away from home. At that moment, the shadow on the ground made her realize something. That she is very small, and there are many things she still can't do, which prevents her from leaving. As time went by, she learned to live there, so she did whatever the man asked so she wouldn't get beaten. Shui loved being praised in front of people. Besides maintaining a good public image, he didn't spend another cent on Shu. That's because he's a stingy man. Even having a lot of money, he didn't like spending it. Shu could go to school and return to the roof over her head. However, he became frightening when he drank. Once, when she tried to defend herself, she ended up making him even more irritated. Even afraid Shu was smart enough to say that if she had scars, people would ask questions which wouldn't be good for his reputation. That works sometimes, and she can keep going to school and coming back home. If she doesn't ask him for anything, things are even better. Now a teenager, Shu looks at the sky, watching the bird-shaped kites in the air, but the string of hers snapped. She has always felt like she has no connection in this world. Her gaze shifts to the crowd. Seeing parents and children having fun together at this festival, while she is like a weed in a rose garden, alone there. Her eyes fix on people holding hands. All she has left is what remains of her kite. This is how her life has been for days. This is stretched for years, going in circles over and over and always ending up nowhere. Currently, Class 3 is on another field trip. The teacher warns about the short break they will take before returning to the library. Since it will rain soon, they will take shelter first. As always, it's easy for Shu to get distracted, but that's because she heard something. She looks at a bird that seems to glow in this cloudy and dark day. With a sad look, the protagonist thinks about how the animal is free with its wings able to take it anywhere. Shu steps onto the ledge and balances on the railing, then ready to jump and be free like a bird. But a strong gust of wind stops that. The girl is thrown backward. Impressed by it, she feels like it was something intentional. Soon the teacher appears, asking her to join the group. Shu knows the woman is right. She has no idea what made her do something like that. But it's fine. She intends to fulfill her own expectations alone. After all, she feels satisfied when she collects her bottles and earns money from it. She eagerly waits for the week of the year when peaches are on sale. And she is proud of being able to reuse cheap clothes. She has a lot of talent in turning something old and broken into something new and beautiful. Thinking about these things, maybe Shu can endure until the day she can leave all her past behind. At least that's what she hopes. But in the middle of all this, something entered her life like a stone thrown into a river, stirring everything around it. His presence transformed her life. When she came back to her senses, the link between her and this world was in Yan's hands. It was he who fulfilled all her expectations. Her desires and tastes are so simple. Shu loves earning money, even if it's just a little at a time. as well as transforming strange clothes with her own designs. And now she likes her world with Yan. When she managed to open that space, her heart immediately filled with this kind of feeling. Shu is now looking for him. He simply disappeared. Suddenly, she feels the sensation that someone is lurking. When she turns around, she notices He-Xian hiding, or rather, trying to. What is this girl doing there? Did she see something? Shu even thinks that Yan might have escaped because of the girl and wonders if he said to be careful, no longer wanting to hide. He-Xian asks what she is looking at. Shu stares at the girl in a scary way and walks toward her, wanting to ask a few questions. The protagonist reaches her, asking why she was hiding and following her, and she is also interested in knowing what she saw. But He-Xian is still desperate with this strange girl and begs her to stop chasing her. In the end, she admits that she was just curious about Shu. Admitting that was the hardest thing, He-Xian becomes hesitant. Without looking at her, the girl says they have had many unpleasant encounters before, where harsh words and hateful looks were used, and it all came from her. He-Xian doesn't know what she would do to get revenge on someone if it were her, but she doesn't understand why the other girl never seemed to care. So she wants to know how she manages to stay calm when facing other people's hatred. It's a relief for Shu that this is what the girl is focused on. She remembers what Yan said about a normal person having a stronger reaction to ability users. Well, at least that's not something she needs to worry about. Getting lost in her thoughts makes the other react. He-Xian shouts that she always has an empty look and never listens to what others say, making it seem sometimes like she is humiliating people on purpose. Shu says she shouldn't feel conflicted when she did nothing wrong. How others see her is their problem and not hers. So she doesn't intend to waste her time thinking about why others don't like her. But if she does something that bothers others, she will have the humility to correct it. He-Xian then makes a revelation. The incident that happened in middle school is the reason she hates her. At that moment, Yan is passing by with one of the boys. And obviously what is happening is not ignored since he knows she is one of the girls who pushed her that day. The boy is going over the many assignments they need to do. But Yan asks him to go ahead, giving an excuse that he needs to tie his shoelaces. Of course, that excuse doesn't work because he doesn't even have anything to tie. Which makes the boy more curious, so he looks around to see what caught Yan's attention. But he runs into that intimidating look of an animal staring at its prey, making the boy hurry away as suggested. With his sharp vision, nothing goes unnoticed by Yan, like Shu's father hidden watching everything. In an interesting way, all of Quail's enemies are there. That's it, guys.